Hello. How is it going? What is up, gamers? I hope you all had a good weekend. We're gonna sip Bacardi like it's your birthday. Cracking it. Delicioso. What happened last time on Bible Z? Yeah, I need to open up my notes. We read all of Exodus and Leviticus and Numbers. Let me pull up the old notes. Here's my notes thus far, starting with Exodus. Main takeaway here is we all know about all of the plagues released on Egypt. You know, the locusts and the gnats and the frogs, etc. But as it turns out, God mind controlled the Pharaoh to make sure that despite any sort of kind of inkling that the Pharaoh had to release the Israelites, he wouldn't let them. Yeah, God would not let the Pharaoh release them. He brainwashed him to where it wasn't possible. That's pretty lit. All of Egypt got punished for the Pharaoh's actions that God made him do, by the way. It's literally everybody. Kind of messed up. We described Passover, and if you don't do it, then your firstborn gets killed. At the end of Exodus and through most of Leviticus, we gave some extremely hyper-specific, repetitive instructions as to how to build the tabernacle of worship. And he lists off a bunch of extremely boring, dry details for how you're meant to build the tabernacle for like a couple of hours. In Leviticus, it goes at length to describe who is clean or unclean, and if you are unclean, then you are not able to enter the place of worship. Leviticus is where the homophobia comes from, because it tells you not to have sex with another guy if you're a guy. It doesn't it doesn't specify lesbian sex though, because women are objects at this point. The only time that women are ever brought up is in the framework of comparing them to a man, or what they should be, or what men should do with them or to them. So we actually didn't. We specifically said you should not sleep with a man as though you would a woman. So who knows? Whenever it's two ladies, it's really up for your interpretation. And the fun part about that is they also go on to describe a bunch of extremely outlandish shit afterwards that absolutely nobody holds in the same regard as the homophobia stuff. Like, don't cut your beard. Don't enter any land where a fruit tree is planted. I don't know why. Lots of stuff where it's talking about how you should treat foreigners and immigrants as though they're one of your own, and that one's not necessarily adhered to in America. Pretty ableist. If you're disabled, you cannot go to the church to give offerings, for you're considered unclean. Gives a lot of rules as to whenever it's Gucci. Fruit tree think it's retcon in Deuteronomy. Damn, that's crazy. We talk at length when it's okay to do slavery, and like how you should sell yourself into slavery if you have to. And in Numbers, we take a census a couple of times, and it's probably the most boring piece of media that I've ever consumed in my entire life. It's impressively dry. It's pretty long, and really little of substance is talked about. Right here is probably these three bits are like probably the important aspects from Numbers. And then we like fought a war, but God said it was cool because, you know, we're homies at this point. Pretty strange whenever he tells us to go kill a whole army of people. Right after the chapter where he says that thou shalt not murder, but what really is murder? I don't know. You rather read Numbers or diagnostic logs from a computer? And now we start. Now we go next. All right. Okay. This one looks good. Probably turn down the brightness on my webcam. Bop. Bam. That looks good. I always forget what settings I use for my audio.
Deuteronomy chapter
1.
1. These are the words Moses spoke to all Israel in the wilderness east of the Jordan, that is, in the Arabah, opposite Suf, between Paran
Is this
and
loud?
Tophel,
How's the volume? Is it
Laban,
quiet?
Hazirith, and Dizahab. It takes 11 days to go from Horeb to Kadesh Barnea by the Mount Seir road. In the 40th year, on the first day of the 11th month, Moses proclaimed to the Israelites all that the Lord had commanded him concerning them. This was after he had defeated Sihon, king of the Amorites, who reigned in Heshbon, and at Edrei had defeated Og, king of Bashan, who reigned in Ashtaroth. East of the Jordan, in the territory of Moab, Moses began to expound this law, saying,
The Lord our God said to us at Horeb,
You have stayed long enough at this mountain. Break camp and advance into the hill country of the Amorites. Go to all the neighboring peoples in the Arabah, in the mountains, in the western foothills, in the Negev and along the coast, to the land of the Canaanites and to Lebanon, as far as the great river the Euphrates. See, I have given you this land. Go in and take possession of the land the Lord swore he would give to your
Holy
fathers,
pillage.
to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and to their descendants after them.
At that time I said to you, You are too heavy a burden for me to carry alone. The Lord your God has increased your numbers, so that today you are as numerous as the stars in the sky. May the Lord, the God of your ancestors, increase you 1,000 times, and bless you as he has promised. But how can I bear your problems, and your burdens, and your disputes all by myself? Choose some wise, understanding, and respected men from each of your tribes, and I will set them over you. You answered me,
What you propose to do is good.
So I took the leading men of your tribes, wise and respected men, and appointed them to have authority over you, as commanders of thousands, of hundreds, of fifties, and of tens, and as tribal officials. And I charged your judges at that time, Hear the disputes between your people and judge fairly, whether the case is between two Israelites or between an Israelite and a foreigner residing among you. Do not show partiality in judging. Hear both small and great alike. Do not be afraid of anyone, for judgment belongs to God. Bring me any
I'm
case
gonna judge
too
your
hard
case,
for
but
you,
trust me, bro.
and I will hear it. And at that time I told you everything you were to
I'm
do.
not like God
Then,
told me that I could.
As
So
the Lord our God commanded us, we set out from Horeb and went toward the hill country of the Amorites, through all that vast and dreadful wilderness that you have seen.
Spies.
And so we reached Kadesh Barnea.
Sus.
Then I said to you, You have reached the hill country of the Amorites, which the Lord our God is giving us. See, the Lord your God has given you the land. Go up and take possession of it, as the Lord, the God of your ancestors, told you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. Then all of you came to me and said,
Let us send men ahead to spy out the land for us.
This just
and bring
seems
back
like
a report
we're
about
making
the
up
route
a
we are
bunch
to
of
take
malarkey
and the towns
as
we will come
justification
to.
for us doing
The idea
imperialism.
seemed good to me, so I selected 12 of you, one man from each tribe. They left and went up into the hill country and came to the valley of Eshcol and explored it. Taking with them some of the fruit of the land, they brought it down to us and reported,
It is a good land that the Lord our God is giving us.
But you were unwilling to go up. You rebelled against the command of the Lord your God. You grumbled in your tents and said,
The Lord
The fucking
hates
grumblers,
us,
dude.
so he brought us out of Egypt to deliver us into the hands of the Amorites to destroy us. Where can we go? Our brothers have made our hearts melt in fear. They say, The people are stronger and taller than we are. The cities are large, with walls up to the sky. We even saw the Anakites there.
Then I said to you, do not be terrified. Do not be afraid of them. The Lord your God, who is going before you, will fight for you, as he did for you in Egypt, before your very eyes, and in the wilderness. There you saw how the Lord your God carried you, as a father carries his son, all the way you went until you reached this place. In spite of this, you did not trust in the Lord your God, who went ahead of you on your journey, in fire by night and in a cloud by day, to search out places for you to camp and to show you the way you should go. When the Lord heard what you said, he was angry and solemnly swore,
No one from this evil generation shall see the good land
Come on,
I
man.
swore to give your ancestors, except Caleb, son of Jephunneh. He will see it, and I will give him and his descendants the land he set his feet on, because he followed the Lord wholeheartedly.
Because of you, the Lord became angry with me also, and said,
You shall not enter it either, but your assistant, Joshua, son of Nun, will enter it. Encourage him, because he will lead Israel to inherit it. And the little ones that you said would be taken captive, your children who do not yet know good from bad, they will enter the land. I will give it to them, and they will take possession of it. But as for you, turn around and set out toward the desert, along the route to the Red Sea.
Then you replied,
We have sinned against the Lord. We will go up and fight, as the Lord our God commanded us.
So every one of you put on his weapons, thinking it easy to go up into the hill country. But the Lord said to me,
Tell them, do not go up and fight, because I will not be with you. You will be
You do
defeated
not have the
by
juju.
your enemies.
So I told you, but you would not listen. You rebelled against the Lord's command, and in your arrogance you marched up into the hill country. The Amorites who lived in those hills came out against you. They chased you like a swarm of bees and beat you down from Seir all the way to Hormah. You came back and wept before the Lord, but he paid no attention to your weeping and turned a deaf ear to you. And so you stayed in Kadesh many days, all the time you spent there.
Chapter 2.
Then we turned back and set out toward the wilderness along the route to the Red Sea, as the Lord had directed me. For a long time we made our way around the hill country of Seir. Then the Lord said to me,
You have made your way around this hill country long enough. Now turn north. Give the people these orders. You are about to pass through the territory of your relatives,
And
the
some cunt
descendants
said,
of
"Damn, that's
Esau,
crazy."
who live in Seir. They will be afraid of you, but be very careful. Do not provoke them to war, for I will not give you any of their land, not even enough to put your foot on. I have given Esau the hill country of Seir as his own. You are to pay them in silver for the food you eat and the water you drink.
The Lord your God has blessed you in all the work of your hands. He has watched over your journey
Esau
through
making
this
a return.
vast wilderness.
He got swept
These
under the rug for a
40
while.
years, the Lord your God has been with you, and you have not lacked anything. So we went on past our relatives, the descendants of Esau, who live in Seir. We turned from the Arabah road, which comes up from Elath and Ezion-Geber, and traveled along the desert road of Moab. Then the Lord said to me,
Do not harass the Moabites, or provoke them to war, for I will not give you any part of their land. I have given Ar to the descendants of Lot as a possession.
The Emites used to live there, a people strong and numerous, and as tall as the Anakites.
And they
Like
were
the
so tall.
Anakites, they too were considered Rephaites. But the Moabites called them Emites. Horites used to live in Seir, but the descendants of Esau drove them out. They destroyed the Horites from before them and settled in their place, just as Israel did in the land the Lord gave them as their possession.
And the Lord said,
Now get up and cross the Zered Valley.
So we crossed the valley.
And the
38
Lord said,
years passed from
right
the
stomp.
time we left Kadesh
Two
Barnea
times.
until we crossed the Zered Valley. By then, that entire generation of fighting men had perished from the camp, as the Lord had sworn to them. The Lord's hand was against them until he had completely eliminated them from the camp. Now, when the last of these fighting men among the people had died, the Lord said to me,
Today you are to pass by the region of Moab at Ar. When you come to the Ammonites, do not harass them or provoke them to war, for I will not give you possession of any land belonging to the Ammonites. I have given it as a possession to the
We're literally getting
descendants
government
of
handouts.
That too was considered a land of the Rephaites, who used to live there, but the Ammonites called them Zamzummites. They were a people strong and numerous,
son.
and as tall as the Anakites. The Lord destroyed them from before the Ammonites, who drove them out and settled in their place. The Lord had done the same for the descendants of Esau, who lived in Seir, when he destroyed the Horites from before them. They drove them out and have lived in their place to this day. And as for the Avites, who lived in villages as far as Gaza, the Caphtorites coming out of Caphtor destroyed them and settled in their place.
Set out now and cross the Arnon Gorge. See, I have given into your hand Sihon the Amorite, king of Heshbon, and his country. Begin to take possession of it and engage him in battle. This very day I will begin to put the terror and fear of you on all the nations under heaven. They will hear reports of you and will tremble and be in anguish because of you.
From the desert of Kedemoth, I sent messengers to Sihon, king of Heshbon, offering peace, and saying,
Let us pass through your country. We will stay on the main road. We will not turn aside to the right or to the left. Sell us food to eat.
I'm just going to declare war and then walk through. I'm just doing it so I can walk through, man.
The descendants of Esau who live in Seir, and the Moabites who live in Ar did for us, until we cross the Jordan into the land the Lord our God is giving us.
But Sihon, king of Heshbon, refused to let us pass through. For the Lord your God had made his spirit stubborn, and his heart obstinate, in order to give him into your hands, as he has now done. The Lord said to me,
See, I have begun to deliver Sihon and his country over to you. Now begin to conquer and possess his land.
When Sihon and all his army came out to meet us in battle at Jahaz, the Lord our God delivered him over to us, and we struck him down, together with his sons and his whole army. At that time we took all his towns and completely destroyed them. Men, women, and children, we left no survivors. But the livestock and the plunder from the towns we had captured, we carried off for ourselves. From Aroer on the rim of the Arnon Gorge, and from the town in the gorge, even as far as Gilead, not one town was too strong for us. The Lord our God gave us all of them. But in accordance with the command of the Lord our God, you did not encroach on any of the land of the Ammonites, neither the land along the course of the Jabbok, nor that around the towns in the hills.
Chapter 3.
Next we turned and went up along the road toward Bashan, and Og, king of Bashan, with his whole army marched out to meet us in battle at Edrei. The Lord said to me,
Do not be afraid of him, for I have delivered him into your hands, along with his whole army and his land. Do to him what you did to Sihon, king of the Amorites, who reigned in Heshbon.
So the Lord our God also gave into our hands Og, king of Bashan, and all his army. We struck them down, leaving no survivors. At that time we took all his cities. There was not one of the 60 cities that we did not take from them. The whole region of Argob, Og's kingdom in Bashan. All these cities were fortified with high walls and with gates and bars, and there were also a great many unwalled villages. We completely destroyed them, as we had done with Sihon, king of Heshbon, destroying every city, men, women, and children. But all the livestock,
is he like a war general?
From their cities, we carried off for ourselves. So at that time we took from these two kings of the Amorites the territory east of the Jordan, from the Arnon Gorge as far as Mount Hermon.
Hermon is called Sirion by the Sidonians. The Amorites call it Senir.
we took all the towns on the plateau, and all Gilead, and all Bashan, as far as Salakah and Edrei, towns of Og's kingdom in Bashan.
Og, king of Bashan, was the last of the Rephaites. His bed was decorated with iron, and was more than 9 cubits long and 4 cubits wide. It is still in Rabbah of the Ammonites.
Of the land that we took over at that time, I gave the Reubenites and the Gadites the territory north of Aroer, by the Arnon Gorge, including half the hill country of Gilead, together with its towns. The rest of Gilead, and also all of Bashan, the kingdom of Og, I gave to the half-tribe of Manasseh.
The whole region of Argob and Bashan used to be known as a land of the Rephaites. Jair, a descendant of Manasseh, took the whole region of Argob as far as the border of the Geshurites and the Maacathites. It was named after him, so that to this day Bashan is called Havoth Jair.
And I gave Gilead to Makir. But to the Reubenites and the Gadites I gave the territory extending from Gilead down to the Arnon Gorge, the middle of the gorge being the border, and out to the Jabbok River, which is the border of the Ammonites. Its western border was the Jordan in the Arabah, from Kinnereth to the Sea of the Arabah, that is, the Dead Sea, below the slopes of Pisgah. I commanded you at that time, the Lord your God has given you this land to take possession of it, but all your able-bodied men, armed for battle, must cross over ahead of the other Israelites. However, your wives, your children, and your livestock, I know you have much livestock, may stay in the towns I have given you, until the Lord gives rest to your fellow Israelites as he has to you. And they too have taken over the land that the Lord your God is giving them across the Jordan. After that,
I feel like
each
it's,
of you may go back to the possession
giving it to
I
him.
have
I don't
given
think
you.
it's.
At that time, I commanded Joshua, you have seen with your own eyes
I think it's
all
more
that
so
the
that
Lord your
Moses
God
is doing
has
the
done to
divvying
these
here.
2 kings. The Lord will do the same to all the kingdoms over there where you are going. Do not be afraid of them. The Lord your God himself will fight for you. At that time, I pleaded with the Lord, Sovereign Lord, you have begun to show to your servant your greatness and your strong hand. For what God is there in heaven or on earth who can do the deeds and mighty works you do? Let me go over and see the good land beyond the Jordan, that fine hill country and Lebanon. But because of you, the Lord was angry with me and would not listen to me.
That is enough.
The Lord said,
Do not speak to me any more about this matter. Go up to the top of Pisgah, and look west, and north, and south, and east. Look at the land with your own eyes, since you are not going to cross this
Bring it
Jordan.
around
But
town.
commission Joshua, and encourage and strengthen him, for he will lead this people across, and will cause them to inherit the land that you will see.
Whatever the
So we
light
stayed
touches,
in the
Simba.
valley near Beth Peor.
Chapter 4.
Now, Israel, hear the decrees and laws I am about to teach you. Follow them so that you may live, and may go in and take possession of the land the Lord, the God of your ancestors, is giving you. Do not add to what I command you, and do not subtract from it, but keep the commands of the Lord your God that I give you. You saw with your own eyes what the Lord did at Baal Peor. The Lord your God destroyed from among you everyone who followed the Baal of Peor. But all of you who held fast to the Lord your God are still alive today. See, I have taught you decrees and laws
Everyone that
as the
died,
Lord
didn't
my
believe hard
God
enough.
commanded me,
That's how it
so
works.
that you may follow them in the land you are entering to take possession of it. Observe them carefully, for this will show your wisdom and understanding to the nations, who will hear about all these decrees and say,
This is from the
Surely
Jewish
this
people into a
great
wandering
nation
army.
is a wise and understanding
Would they even
people.
be considered Jewish?
What other
yet?
nation is so great
There is
as
no
to
Judah.
have their gods near them, the way the Lord our God is near us, whenever we pray to him? And what other nation is so great as to have such righteous decrees and laws as this body of laws I am setting before you today? Only be careful, and watch yourselves closely, so that you do not forget the things your eyes have seen, or let them fade from your heart as long as you live. Teach them to your children, and to their children after them. Remember the day you stood before the Lord your God at Horeb, when he said to me,
Assemble the people before me to hear my words, so that they may learn to revere me as long as they live in the land, and may teach them to their children.
You came near and stood at the foot of the mountain, while it blazed with fire to the very heavens, with black clouds and deep darkness. Then the Lord spoke to you out of the fire. You heard the sound of words, but saw no form. There was only a voice. He declared to you his covenant, the 10 Commandments, which he commanded you to follow, and then wrote them on 2 stone tablets. And the Lord directed me at that time to teach you the decrees and laws you are to follow in the land that you are crossing the Jordan to possess.
Commands you not to murder, immediately kills several nations worth of people.
To you at Horeb out of the fire. Therefore watch yourselves very carefully, so that you do not become corrupt and make for yourselves an idol, an image of any shape, whether formed like a man or a woman, or like any animal on earth, or any bird that flies in the air, or like any creature that moves along the ground, or any fish in the waters below. And when you look up to the sky and see the sun, the moon, and the stars, all the heavenly array, do not be enticed into bowing down to them and worshiping things the Lord your God has apportioned to all the nations under heaven. But as
had
for
pretty low
you,
populations.
the Lord took you and brought you out of the iron smelting furnace, out of
our
Egypt, to
gang
be
of
the people
traveling
of his
homies
inheritance,
numbers
as
600,000,
you now are.
as we learned in the book of
The
Numbers.
Lord was angry with me because of you, and he solemnly swore that I would not cross the Jordan and enter the good land the Lord your God is giving you as your inheritance. I will die in this land. I will not cross the Jordan, but you are about to cross over and take possession of that good land. Be careful not to forget the covenant of the Lord your God.
You're just beating the war drums, huh?
Do not make for yourselves an idol in the form of anything the Lord your God has forbidden. For the Lord your God is a consuming fire, a jealous God. After you have had children and grandchildren and have lived in the land a long time, if you then become corrupt and make any kind of idol, doing evil in the eyes of the Lord your God and arousing his anger, I call the heavens and the earth as witnesses against you this day, that you will quickly perish from the land that you are crossing the Jordan to possess. You will not live there long, but will certainly be destroyed. The Lord will scatter you among the peoples, and only a few of you will survive among the nations to which the Lord will drive you. There you will worship man-made gods of wood and stone, which cannot see or hear or eat or smell. But if
Unlike
from
this God,
there
of course.
you seek the Lord your God, you will find him, if you seek him with all your heart and with all your soul. When you are in distress and all these things have happened to you, then in later days you will return to the Lord your God and obey him. For the Lord your God is a merciful God. He will not abandon or destroy you or forget the covenant with your ancestors, which he confirmed to them by oath. Ask now about the former days, long before your time. From the day God created human beings,
I don't think
on
he's
the
been
earth.
very merciful to this
Ask
point, if I'm
from
being
one
honest.
end of the heavens to the other. Has anything so great as this ever happened?
He's kind of
Or
like,
has
he gets
anything
slighted one
like it
time and
ever
then
been heard of?
he
Has any other
just
people heard
kills
the
people
voice
instantly.
of God speaking out of fire as you have and lived? Has any God ever tried to take for himself one nation out of another nation, by testings, by signs and wonders, by war, by a mighty hand and an outstretched arm, or by great and awesome deeds?
We
like
killed a guy
all the
for
things the Lord your God
for
did
picking
for
up
you in
wood on
Egypt
Sunday.
before your very eyes? You were shown these things so that you might know that the Lord is God. Besides him there is no other. From heaven he made you hear his voice to discipline you. On earth he showed you his great fire, and you heard his words from out of the fire. Because he loved your ancestors and chose their descendants after them, he brought you out of Egypt by his presence and his great strength, to drive out before you nations greater and stronger than you, and to bring you into their land, to give it to you for your inheritance, as it is today. Acknowledge and take to heart this day that the Lord is
Dixania,
God in
thanks for the
heaven
prime.
above and on the earth
Thanks
below.
for the tithe.
There is no other. Keep his decrees and commands, which I am giving you today, so that it may go well with you and your children after you, and that you may live long in the land the Lord your God gives you for all time.
For all time.
Then Moses set aside 3 cities east of the Jordan, to which anyone who had killed a person could flee if they had unintentionally killed a neighbor without malice aforethought. They could flee into one of these cities and save their life. The cities were
Oh yeah, I
these.
forgot about this.
These are in the wilderness plateau for the Reubenites, Ramoth and Gilead
if you
for the
manslaughter,
Gadites,
you can flee
and
to one
Golan and
of
Bashan
3
for the
cities
Manassites.
and be
This is
free
the
of
law Moses set
prosecution.
before the Israelites.
You say, I
These
didn't
are the
mean to.
stipulations,
I don't know, man.
decrees, and laws Moses gave them when they came out of Egypt, and were in the valley near Beth Peor, east of the Jordan, in the land of Sihon, king of the Amorites, who reigned in Heshbon, and was defeated by Moses and the Israelites as they came out of Egypt. They took possession of his land and the land of Og, king of Bashan, the 2 Amorite kings east of the Jordan. This land extended from Aroer on the rim of the Arnon Gorge to Mount Sirion, that is Hermon, and included all of the Arabah east of the Jordan as far as the Dead Sea, below the slopes of Pisgah. Chapter
10
5.
Commandments.
Moses
Again?
summoned all Israel and said,
Hear, Israel, the decrees and laws I declare in your hearing today. Learn them and be sure to follow them. The Lord our God made a covenant with us at Horeb.
Classic.
It was not
God
with
saying
our
something to Moses and then
ancestors that the
Moses
Lord
repeating
made
it
this
verbatim.
covenant, but with us, with all of us who
I thought
are
we already
alive here
repeated this
today.
once.
The Lord spoke to you face to face out of the fire on the mountain. At that time I stood between the Lord and you to declare to you the word of the Lord, because you were afraid of the fire and did not go up the mountain. And he said,
I am the Lord your God, who brought
And
you
he
out of
said,
Egypt, out of the land of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an image in the form of anything in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them, or worship them. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of the parents to the 3rd and 4th generation of those who hate me, but showing love
Bro, what
to
happened to being
1,000
merciful, dog?
generations of those who love me and keep my commandments.
So
You shall
whack.
not misuse the name of the Lord your God, for the Lord will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses his name. Observe the Sabbath day by keeping it holy, as the Lord your God has commanded you. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the 7th day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you nor your son or daughter, nor your male or female servant, nor your ox, your donkey, or any of your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your towns, so that your male and female servants may rest, as you do. Remember that you were slaves in Egypt, and that the Lord your God brought you out of there with a mighty
literally
hand
one of the commandments
and
that you're
an
not meant to work
outstretched arm. Therefore
on Sunday,
the Lord your God
or Saturday,
has
or
commanded
Friday,
you to
whenever it is.
observe
Who really
the
knows?
Sabbath day. Honor your father and your mother, as the Lord your God has commanded you, so that you may live long, and that it may go well with you in the land the Lord your God is giving you. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife. You shall not set your desire on your neighbor's house or land, his male or female servant, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor.
These are the commandments the Lord proclaimed in a loud voice.
We're saying that you
to
should
your
not set your
whole
desire in your
assembly
neighbor's
there
house
on
or
the
land.
mountain, from out of the fire, the cloud, and the deep
But we
darkness.
literally just
and he
conquered.
added nothing more.
Literally just
Then
conquered an entire
he wrote
nation.
them on two
and then
stone
took their
tablets
land.
and gave them to me. When you heard the voice out of the darkness, while the mountain was ablaze with fire, all the leaders of your tribes and your elders came to me, and you said,
"The Lord our God has shown us his glory and his majesty, and we have heard his voice from the fire. Today we have seen that a person can live even if God speaks with them. But now, why should we die? This great fire will consume us, and we will die if we hear the voice of the Lord our God any longer. For what mortal has ever heard the voice of the living God speaking out of fire as we have and survived? Go near and listen to all that the Lord our God says. Then tell us whatever the Lord our God tells you. We will listen and obey."
Yeah, I go and kill my neighbor and then take his stuff.
And the Lord said to me,
I have heard what this people
and
said
fuck his
to
wife.
you. Everything they said was good. Oh, that their hearts would be inclined to fear me,
but then I just say
and
God
keep
told me
all
to.
my commands always, so that it might go well with them and their children forever. Go, tell them to return to their tents, but you stay here with me, so that I may give you all the commands, decrees, and laws you are to teach them to follow in the land I am giving them to possess.
So be careful to do what the Lord your God has commanded you. Do not turn aside to the right or to the left. Walk in obedience to all that the Lord your God has commanded you, so that you may live.
Does that mean since I don't
and
live
prosper
in that
and
land that was
prolong
given to
your
them, that I don't
days
have
in
to
the
follow this
land
bullshit?
that you will possess?
Chapter 6.
These are the commands, decrees, and laws the Lord your God directed me to teach you to observe in the land that you are crossing the Jordan to possess, so that you, your children, and their children after them may fear the Lord your God as long as you live, by keeping all his decrees and commands that I give you, and so that you may enjoy long life. Hear, Israel, and be careful to obey, so that it may go well with you, and that you may increase greatly in a land flowing with milk and honey, just as the Lord, the God of your ancestors, promised you. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your strength. These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home, and when you walk along the road, when you lie down, and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands, and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the doorframes of your houses and on your gates. When the Lord your God brings you into the land he swore to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give you a land with large, flourishing cities you did not build, houses filled with all kinds of good things you did not provide, wells you did not dig, and vineyards and olive groves you did not plant.
I feel like binding
Then,
the commandments to
when you
your
eat and are
forehead
satisfied, be careful that you do not forget
wouldn't
the
be
Lord,
easy.
who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. Fear the Lord your God. Serve him only, and take your oaths
we
in his
literally
name.
do slavery.
Do not follow other gods, the gods of the peoples around you. For the Lord your God, who is among
We literally
you, is a
participate in
jealous
slavery.
God, and his
We can't
anger will
turn our
burn
nose up
against
at it
you, and he will destroy
as
you
though
from the
it
face
was
of the
a
land.
really bad thing.
Do not put the
whenever
Lord
we
your
do
God
it.
to the test as you did at Massah. Be sure to keep the commands of the Lord your God and the stipulations and decrees he has given you. Do what is right and good in the Lord's sight, so that it may go well with you, and you may go in and take over the good land the Lord promised on oath to your ancestors, thrusting out all your enemies before you, as the Lord said. In the future, when your son asks you,
"What is the meaning of the stipulations, decrees, and laws the Lord our God has commanded you?"
tell him, "We were slaves of Pharaoh in Egypt, but the Lord brought us out of Egypt with a mighty hand. Before our eyes the Lord sent signs and wonders, great and terrible, on Egypt and Pharaoh and his whole household. But he brought us out from there to bring us in and give us the land he promised on oath to our ancestors. The Lord commanded us to obey all these decrees and to fear the Lord our God, so that we might always prosper and be kept alive, as is the case today. And if we are careful to obey all this law before the Lord our God, as he has commanded us, that will be our righteousness.
Chapter 7.
When the Lord your God brings you into the land you are entering to possess, and drives out before you many nations, the Hittites, Girgashites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, 7 nations larger and stronger than you, and when the Lord your God has delivered them over to you, and you have defeated them, then you must destroy them totally. Make no treaty with them, and show them no mercy.
Bro, what the fuck?
Do not intermarry with them. Do not give your daughters to their sons, or take their daughters for your sons, for they will turn your children away from following me to serve other gods. And the Lord's anger will burn against you, and will quickly destroy you. This is what you are to do to them. Break down their altars, smash their sacred stones, cut down their Asherah poles, and burn their idols in the fire. For you are a people holy to the Lord your God. The Lord your God has chosen you out of all the peoples on the face of the earth to be his people, his treasured possession. The Lord did not set his affection on you and choose you because you were more numerous than other peoples, for you were the fewest of all peoples. But it was because the Lord loved you and kept the oath he swore to your ancestors that he brought you out with a mighty hand and redeemed you from the land of slavery, from the power of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Know therefore that the Lord your God is God. He is the faithful God, keeping his covenant of love to 1,000 generations of those who love him and keep his commandments. But those who hate him he will repay to their face by destruction. He will not be slow to repay to their face those who hate him. Therefore, take care to follow the commands, decrees, and laws I give you today. If you pay attention to these laws and are careful to follow them, then the Lord your God will keep his covenant of love with you, as he swore to your ancestors. He will love you and bless you and increase your numbers. He will bless the fruit of your womb, the crops of your land, your grain, new wine, and olive oil, the calves of your herds, and the lambs of your flocks in the land he swore to your ancestors to give you. You will be blessed more than any other people. None of your men or women will be childless, nor will any of your livestock be without young. The Lord will keep you free from every disease. He will not inflict on you the horrible diseases you knew in Egypt, but he will inflict them on all who hate you. You must destroy all the peoples the Lord your God gives over to you. Do not look on them with pity, and do not serve their gods, for that will be a snare to you. You may say to yourselves,
Merciful God, by the way,
stronger than we are. How can we drive them out?
But do not be afraid of them. Remember well what the Lord your God did to Pharaoh and to all Egypt. You saw with your own eyes the great trials, the signs and wonders, the mighty hand and outstretched arm with which the Lord your God brought you out. The Lord your God will do the same to all the peoples you now fear. Moreover, the Lord your God will send the hornet among them, until even the survivors who hide from you have perished.
Dude,
do not be terrified by them, for the Lord your God, who is among you, is a great and awesome God. The Lord your God will drive out those nations before you, little by little.
Does God give them the suck up
you
to heaven?
will not be allowed to eliminate
heaven doesn't
them all
exist
at
yet.
once, or the wild
We haven't invented this concept.
will multiply around you. But the Lord your God will deliver them over to you, throwing them into great confusion until they are destroyed. He will give their kings into your hand, and you will wipe out their names from under heaven. No
Heaven
one
has
will
not
be
been
able
mentioned.
to stand up against you. You will destroy them. The images of their gods you are to burn in the fire. Do not covet the silver and gold on them, and do not take it for yourselves, or you will be ensnared by it, for it is detestable to the Lord your God. Do not bring a detestable thing into your house, or you, like it, will be set apart for destruction. Regard it as vile and utterly detest it, for it is set apart for destruction.
Chapter 8.
Be careful to follow every command I am giving you today, so
Never
that you may
forgetty.
live and increase and may enter and possess the land the Lord promised on oath to your ancestors. Remember how the Lord your God led you all the way in the wilderness these 40 years, to humble and test you in order to know what was in your heart, whether or not you would keep his commands. He humbled you, causing you to hunger and then feeding you with manna, which neither you nor your ancestors had known, to teach you that man does not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of the Lord. Your clothes did not wear out, and your feet did not swell during these 40 years. Know
40
then in your
years.
heart that as a man disciplines his son, so the Lord your God disciplines you. Observe the commands of the Lord your God, walking in obedience to him and revering him. For the Lord your God is bringing you into a good land, a land with brooks, streams, and deep springs gushing out into the valleys and hills, a land with wheat and barley, vines and fig trees, pomegranates, olive oil and honey, a land where bread will not be scarce, and you will lack nothing, a land where the rocks are iron, and you can dig copper out of the hills. When you have eaten and are satisfied, praise the Lord your God for the good land he has given you. Be careful that you do not forget the Lord your God, failing to observe his commands, his laws and his decrees that I am giving you this day. Otherwise, when you eat and are satisfied, when you build fine houses and settle down, and when your herds and flocks grow large, and your silver and gold increase, and all you have is multiplied, then your heart will become proud, and you will forget the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. He led you through the vast and dreadful wilderness, that thirsty and waterless land with
God
its
is really taking
venomous
credit
snakes
for
and
all the hard
scorpions.
work of these people.
He brought you water out of hard rock. He gave you manna to eat in the wilderness, something your ancestors had never known, to humble and test you, so that in the end it might go well with you. You may say to yourself,
My power and the strength of my hands have produced this wealth for me.
but remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you the ability to produce wealth, and so confirms his covenant, which he swore to your ancestors, as it is today. If you ever forget the Lord your God, and follow other gods, and worship and bow down to them, I testify against you today that you will surely be destroyed. Like the nations the Lord destroyed before you, so you will be destroyed for not obeying the Lord your God.
Chapter 9.
Hear, Israel,
I'll put that to the
you
test.
are now about to cross the Jordan, to go in and dispossess nations greater and stronger than you, with large cities that have walls up to the sky. The people are strong and tall, Anakites. You know about them and have heard it said,
Who can stand up against the Anakites?
but be assured today that the Lord your God is the one who goes across ahead of you like a devouring fire. He will destroy them. He will subdue them before you, and you will drive them out and annihilate them quickly, as the Lord has promised you. After the Lord your God has driven them out before you, do not say to yourself,
The Lord has brought me here to take possession of this land because of my righteousness.
No, it is on account of the wickedness of these nations that the Lord is going to drive them out before you. It is not because of your righteousness or your integrity that you are going in to take possession of their land, but on account of the wickedness of these nations. The Lord your God will drive them out before you, to accomplish what he swore to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Understand, then, that it is not because of your righteousness that the Lord your God is giving you this good land to possess, for you are a stiff-necked people. Remember this, and never forget how you aroused the anger of the Lord your God in the wilderness.
You know?
From the day you left Egypt until you arrived here, you have been rebellious against the Lord. At Horeb, you aroused the Lord's wrath so that he was angry enough to destroy you. When I went up on the mountain to receive the tablets of stone, the tablets of the covenant that the Lord had made with you, I stayed on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. I ate no bread and drank no water. The Lord gave me 2 stone tablets inscribed by the finger of God.
No food or water for 40 days.
Were all the commandments the Lord proclaimed to you on the mountain, out of the fire, on the day of the assembly. At the end of the 40 days and 40 nights, the Lord gave me the 2 stone tablets, the tablets of the covenant. Then the Lord told me,
"Go down from here at once, because your people, whom you brought out of Egypt, have become corrupt. They have turned away quickly from what I commanded them, and have made an idol for themselves."
And the Lord said to me,
"I have seen this people, and they are a stiff-necked people indeed.
Dude,
Let me
leave them alone
so
for,
that I may
for
destroy
2
them
seconds.
and blot out their name
and what
from
do they go
under
and do?
heaven, and I will make you into a nation stronger and more numerous than they."
So I turned and went down from the mountain while it was ablaze with fire, and the 2 tablets of the covenant were in my hands. When I looked, I saw that you had sinned against the Lord your God. You had made for yourselves an idol cast in the shape of a calf. You had turned aside quickly from the way that the Lord had commanded you. So I took the 2 tablets and threw them out of my hands, breaking them to pieces before your eyes. Then once again I fell prostrate before the Lord for 40 days and 40 nights. I ate no bread and drank no water because of all the sin you had committed, doing what was evil in the Lord's sight and so arousing his anger. I feared the anger and wrath of the Lord, for he was angry enough with you to destroy you. But again the Lord listened to me, and the Lord was angry enough with Aaron to destroy him. But at that time I prayed for Aaron too. Also, I took that sinful thing of yours, the calf you had made, and burned it in the fire. Then I crushed it and ground it to powder as fine as dust, and threw the dust into a stream that flowed down the mountain. You also made the Lord angry at Taberah, at Massa, and at Kibroth-Hattaavah. And when the Lord sent you out from Kadesh Barnea, he said,
"Go up."
Moses is actually complaining about his team super hard right now.
But you rebelled against the command of the Lord your God. You did not trust him or obey him. You have been rebellious against the Lord ever since I have known you. I lay prostrate before the Lord those 40 days and 40 nights.
He is recounting every single time they fucked up and why they lost their game of League of Legends.
I prayed to the Lord and said,
I
Sovereign
told you
Lord,
that
do
you
not
were about
destroy
to be
your
ganked
people,
by the
your
enemy
own
jungler.
inheritance that you redeemed by your great power
the Lord
and
our
brought
God
out of Egypt with a mighty hand. Remember your servants,
told me precisely
Abraham,
where the enemy
Isaac, and
jungler
Jacob.
was located.
Overlook the stubbornness of this people, their wickedness, and their sin. Otherwise, the country from which you brought us will say,
because the Lord was not
you
able to
pushed to
take
their
them into
tower
the land he had
nonetheless.
promised them, and because he hated them, he brought them out to put them to death in the wilderness.
But they are your people, your inheritance that you brought out by your great power and your outstretched arm.
Chapter 10.
At that time the Lord said to me,
"Chisel out 2 stone
All right, let's do it
tablets,
again.
like the first ones, and come up to me on the mountain. Also, make a wooden ark. I will write on the tablets the words that were on the first tablets, which you broke. Then you are to put them in the ark."
So I made the ark out of acacia wood, and chiseled out 2 stone tablets like the first ones.
And
I
you
went
wouldn't
up on the
believe
mountain with the two
the
tablets in my
tabernacle the
hands.
Lord had me
The
design
Lord
next.
wrote on these tablets what he had written before, the 10 commandments he had proclaimed to you on the mountain, out of the fire, on the day of the assembly, and the Lord gave them to me. Then I came back down the mountain and put the tablets in the ark I had made, as the Lord commanded me, and they are there now.
The Israelites traveled from the wells of Beni-Jaakan to Mosera. There Aaron died and was buried, and Eleazar his son succeeded him as priest.
It's the recap
From
episode,
there
everybody.
They traveled to Gudgoda and on to Jotbatha, a land with streams of water. At that time the Lord set
For anybody
apart the tribe of
who
Levi
missed
to carry the
Leviticus.
ark of the covenant of the Lord, to stand before the Lord to minister and to pronounce blessings in his name, as they still do today. That is why the Levites have no share or inheritance among their fellow Israelites. The Lord is their inheritance, as the Lord your God told them.
Now I had stayed on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights, as I did the first time, and the Lord listened to me at this time also. It was not his will to destroy you.
Go,
The Lord said to me,
and lead the people on their way, so that they may enter and possess the land I swore to their ancestors to give them.
And now, Israel, what does the Lord your God ask of you but to fear the Lord your God, to walk in obedience to him, to love him, to serve the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul, and to observe the Lord's commands and decrees that I am giving you today for your own good? To the Lord your God belong the heavens, even the highest heavens, the earth and everything in it. Yet the Lord set his affection on your ancestors and loved them, and he chose you, their descendants, above all the nations, as it is today. Circumcise your hearts, therefore, and do not be stiff-necked any longer. For the Lord your God is God of gods and Lord of lords, the great God, mighty and awesome, who shows no partiality and accepts no bribes.
Hold what?
He defends
Hold on.
the cause of the fatherless and the widow, and loves the foreigner residing among you, giving them food and clothing. And you are to love those who are foreigners, for you yourselves were foreigners in
Actually,
Egypt.
in the same breath.
Fear the Lord your God and serve him. Hold fast to him and take your oaths in his name. He is the one you praise. He is your God.
Seems
who
kind of
performed
partial
for you
to me.
those
I don't know.
great and awesome wonders you saw with your own eyes. Your ancestors who went down into Egypt were 70 in all, and now the Lord your God has made you as numerous as the stars in the sky.
Chapter 11.
Love the Lord your God and keep his requirements, his decrees, his laws, and his commands always. Remember today that your children
constantly
were
trying to
not
have
the
it both
ones who
ways,
saw
where
and
we say that
experienced the discipline of the Lord your God.
the Lord your God is
his majesty, his mighty hand, his outstretched
is loving and
arm,
merciful, but also
the
he's
signs he
vengeful
performed
and
the things
jealous.
he did in the heart of Egypt, both to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and to his whole country. What he did to the Egyptian army, to its horses and chariots, how he overwhelmed them with the waters of the Red Sea as they were pursuing you, and how the Lord brought lasting ruin on them. It was not your children who saw what he did for you in the wilderness until you arrived at this place, and what he did to Dathan and Abiram, sons of Eliab the Reubenite, when the earth opened its mouth right in the middle of all Israel and swallowed them up with their households, their tents, and every living thing that belonged to them. But it was your own eyes that saw all these great things the Lord has done.
Trying to
Observe,
remember
therefore,
present-day
all the
geography.
commands I am giving you today, so that you may have the strength to go in
It's
and
not really
take over
feasible
the
to
land that you are crossing the Jordan
walk
to possess,
from Egypt to
and
Israel,
so
is
that
it?
you may live long.
Aren't they
in the
separated
land
by a
the
body
Lord
of water?
swore to your ancestors to give to them and
Is
their
that the Mediterranean?
descendants, a land flowing with milk and honey. The land you
'Cause
are
Egypt
entering
is,
to take over is not like the land of
is
Egypt,
northeastern
from which you
Africa.
come, where you planted your seed and irrigated it by foot as in a vegetable garden. But the land you are crossing the Jordan to take possession of is a land
Israel's
of
very
mountains
close to
and
Egypt.
valleys that drinks rain from heaven. It is a land the Lord your God cares for.
Part of the sea,
The
though.
eyes
Ah,
of the
true.
Lord your God are continually on it from the beginning
That's
of the
right.
year to its end. So, if you faithfully obey the commands I am giving you today, to love the Lord your God and to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul, then I will send rain on your land in its season, both autumn and spring rains, so that you may gather in your grain, new wine, and olive oil.
In my mind, Israel was
I will provide
northeast
grass
of
in the fields for your
Egypt,
cattle,
separated
and you will
by
eat
the Mediterranean.
And be satisfied. Be careful, or you will be enticed to turn away and worship other gods and bow down to them. Then the Lord's anger will burn against
or whatever
you,
that body of
and he will
water
shut up the heavens
is
so
that's
that it
next
will
to
not
Egypt.
rain, and the ground will yield no produce, and you will soon perish from the good land the Lord is giving you. Fix these words of mine in your hearts and minds. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Teach them to your
Oscar
children,
America not knowing
talking
geography.
about them when you
yeah.
sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Write them on the doorframes of your houses and on your gates, so that your days and the days of your children may be many in the land the Lord swore to give your ancestors, as many as the days that the heavens are above the earth.
If you ask people from other
carefully
regions
observe all these commands
to point out Kansas on a map, they probably couldn't do it, you know.
God, to walk in obedience to him, and
I don't
to
think
hold
it's just
fast to
Americans
him.
not knowing geography.
Then the Lord will drive out all these
I think it's
nations
most people
before
not knowing
you,
geography
and you will dispossess
of
nations larger
regions
and
halfway
stronger
around the
than
world.
you. Every place where you set your foot will be yours. Your territory will extend from the desert to Lebanon, and from the Euphrates River to the Mediterranean Sea. No one will be able to stand against you. The Lord your God, as he promised you, will put the terror and fear of you on the whole land wherever you go. See, I am setting before you today a blessing and a curse. The blessing if you obey the commands of the Lord your God that I am giving you today. The curse if you disobey the commands of the Lord your God and turn from the way that I command you today by following other gods which you have not known. When the Lord your God has brought you into the land you are entering to possess, you are to proclaim on Mount Gerizim the blessings and on Mount Ebal the curses. As you know, these mountains are across the Jordan, westward, toward the setting sun, near the great trees of Morah, in the territory of those Canaanites living in the Arabah, in the vicinity of Gilgal. You are about to cross the Jordan to enter and take possession of the land the Lord your God is giving you. When you have taken it over and are living there, be sure that you obey all the decrees and laws I am setting before you today.
We stay conquering.
Chapter 12.
These are the decrees and laws you must be careful to follow in the land that the Lord, the God of your ancestors, has given you to possess, as long as you live in the land. Destroy completely all the places on the high mountains, on the hills, and
Kansas
under
and Ohio
every
do not
spreading
share a
tree
border.
where the nations you are dispossessing worship their gods. Break down their altars, smash their
Kansas is
sacred
bordered
stones,
by
and burn their
Nebraska
Asherah poles
and
in the fire.
Missouri
Cut down the
and
idols of their
Oklahoma
gods and wipe out
and,
their names from those places.
I
You
think
must
Colorado
not worship the Lord your God in their way.
and maybe
but you
also
are
Utah.
to seek the place the Lord your God will choose from among all your tribes to put his name there for his dwelling. To that place you must go. There bring your burnt offerings and sacrifices, your tithes and special gifts, which you have vowed to give, and your free will offerings, and the firstborn of your herds and flocks.
Wait, no, Utah
There,
is
in the
west of
presence of the
Colorado.
Lord your God, you and your
think.
families shall eat and shall rejoice in everything you have put your hand to, because the Lord your God has blessed you. You are not to do as we do here today, everyone doing as they see fit, since you have not yet reached the resting place and the inheritance the Lord your God is giving you. But you will cross the Jordan and settle in the land the Lord your God is giving you as an inheritance, and he will give you rest from all your enemies around you, so that you will live in safety. Then to the place the Lord your God will choose as a dwelling for his name. There you are to bring everything I command you, your burnt offerings and sacrifices, your tithes and special gifts, and all the choice possessions you have vowed to the Lord. And there rejoice before the Lord your God, you, your sons and daughters, your male and female servants, and the Levites from your towns,
Tells
who
between the
have
Vod and
no
Colorado.
allotment
Yeah,
or
so
inheritance of
west.
their own. Be careful not to sacrifice
That's
your
what I said.
burnt offerings anywhere you please. Offer them only at the place the Lord will choose in one of your tribes, and there observe everything I command you. Nevertheless, you may slaughter your animals in any of your towns and eat as much of the meat as you want, as if it were gazelle or deer, according to the blessing the Lord your God gives you. Both the ceremonially unclean and the clean may eat it, but you must not eat the blood. Pour it out on the ground like water. You must not eat in your own towns the tithe of your grain, and new wine, and olive oil, or the firstborn of your herds and flocks, or whatever you have vowed to give, or your freewill offerings or special gifts. Instead, you are to eat them in the presence of the Lord your God, at the place the Lord your God will choose. You, your sons and daughters, your male and female servants, and the Levites from your towns. And you are to rejoice before the Lord your God in everything you put your hand to. Be careful not to neglect the Levites, as long as you live in your land. When the Lord your God has enlarged your territory as he promised you, and you crave meat and say,
I would like some meat,
then you may eat as much of it as you want. If the place
That
where
is
the
so
Lord
me
your
whenever I
God
want
chooses
meat.
to put his name is too far away from you, you may slaughter animals from the herds and flocks the Lord has given you, as I have commanded you, and in your own towns you may eat as much of them as you want. Eat them as you would gazelle or deer. Both the ceremonially unclean and the clean may eat, but be sure you do not eat the blood, because the blood is the life, and you must not eat the life with the meat. You must not eat the blood. Pour it out on the ground like water. Do not eat it, so that it may go well with you and your children
Am I stuck in a
after
loop?
you, because you will be doing what is right in the eyes of the Lord. But take your consecrated things and whatever you have vowed to give, and go to the place the Lord will choose. Present your burnt offerings on the altar of the Lord your God, both the meat and the blood. The blood of your sacrifices must be poured beside the altar of the Lord your God. But you may eat the meat. Be careful to obey all these regulations I am giving you, so that it may always go well with you and your children after you, because you will be doing what is good and right
Vegans stay losing
in the eyes
in the Bible.
of the Lord your God. The Lord your God will cut off before you the nations you are about to invade and dispossess. But when
It's
you
literally
have driven
ungodly
them out
to
and
be a
settled
vegan.
in their land, and after they have been destroyed before you, be careful not to be ensnared by inquiring about their gods, saying,
How do these nations serve their gods? We will do the same.
You must not worship the Lord your God in their way, because in worshiping their gods they do all kinds of detestable things the Lord hates. They even burn their sons and daughters in the fire as sacrifices to their gods. See that you do all I command you. Do not add to it or take away from it.
Chapter 13.
If a prophet or one who foretells by dreams appears among you and announces to you a sign or wonder, and if the sign or wonder spoken of takes place, and the prophet says, Let us follow other gods, gods you have not known, and let us worship them, you must not listen to the words of that prophet or dreamer. The Lord your God is testing you to find out whether you love him with all your heart and with all your soul. It is the Lord your God you must follow, and him you must
This sounds like they're
revere.
describing Jesus.
Keep his commands and obey him. Serve him and hold fast to him. That prophet or dreamer must be put to death for inciting rebellion against the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt and redeemed you from the land of slavery. That prophet or dreamer tried to turn you from the way the Lord your God commanded you to follow. You must purge the evil from among you. If your very own brother or your son or daughter or the wife you love or your closest friend secretly entices you, saying, Let us go and worship other gods, gods that neither
Wanna
you
do a little
nor
heresy,
your
brother?
ancestors have known, gods of the peoples around you, whether near or far, from one end of the land to the other, do not yield to them or listen to them. Show them no pity. Do not spare them or shield them. You must certainly put them to death. Your hand must be the first in putting them to death, and then
You
the hands
have
of
to
all
kill
the
them.
people. Stone them to death, because they tried to turn you away from the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery.
If
Then
somebody
all
commits
Israel
heresy,
will
you
hear and
have to
be
kill them.
afraid, and no one among you will do such an evil thing again. If you hear it said about one of the towns the Lord
If
your God
literally
is giving you to
anyone
live
says,
in,
"Let's
that
worship other gods,"
troublemakers
you
have
have
arisen
to
among
kill
you
them.
and have led the people of their town astray, saying, "Let us go and worship other gods, gods you have not known," then you must inquire, probe, and investigate it thoroughly. And if it is true, and it has been proved that this detestable thing has been done among you, you must certainly put to the sword all who live in that town. You must destroy it completely, both its people and its livestock. You are
And
to
you have to
gather
kill their
all
little
the
cows,
plunder of the
too.
town into the middle of the public square, and completely burn the town and all its plunder as a whole burnt offering to the Lord your God. That town is to remain a ruin forever, never to be rebuilt, and none of the condemned things are to be found in your hands. Then the Lord will turn from his fierce anger, will show
If
you
one
mercy,
person
and will
says,
have
"We
compassion
need to go,
on
hey,
you,
yo, let's go
he will
worship
increase
something
your
else,"
numbers,
you have
as
to
he promised
burn
on
the
oath
whole
to your
town down and
ancestors,
kill
because
everyone?
You obey the Lord your God by keeping all his commands that I am giving you today,
What the
and
fuck?
doing what is right in his eyes.
Chapter 14.
You are the children of the Lord your God. Do not cut yourselves or shave the front of your heads for the dead, for you are a people holy to the Lord your God. Out of all the peoples on the face of the earth, the Lord has chosen you to be his treasured possession. Do not eat any detestable thing. These are the animals you may eat: the ox, the sheep, the goat, the deer, the gazelle, the roe deer, the wild goat, the ibex, the antelope, and the mountain sheep. You may eat any animal that has a divided hoof and that chews the cud. However, of those that chew the cud or that have a divided hoof, you may not eat the camel, the rabbit, or the hyrax. Although they chew the cud, they do not have a divided hoof. They are ceremonially unclean for you. The pig is also unclean. Although it has a divided hoof, it does not chew the cud. You are not to eat their meat or touch their carcasses. Of all the creatures living in the water, you may eat any that has fins and scales, but anything that does not have fins and scales you may not eat, for you it is unclean. You may eat any clean bird, but these you may not eat: the eagle, the vulture, the black vulture, the red kite, the black kite, any kind of falcon, any kind of raven, the horned owl, the screech owl, the gull, any kind of hawk, the little owl, the great owl, the white owl, the desert owl, the osprey, the cormorant, the stork, any kind of heron, the hoopoe, and the bat. All flying insects are unclean to you. Do not eat them. But any winged creature that is clean you may eat. Do not eat anything you find already dead.
Of your income
you may give it to the foreigner residing in any of your towns, and they may eat it, or you may sell it to any other foreigner. But you are a people holy to the Lord your God. Do not cook a young goat in its mother's milk.
And most
Be sure
importantly,
to set aside a tenth of all that your fields produce each year. Eat the tithe of your grain, new wine and olive oil, and the firstborn of your herds and flocks in the presence of the Lord your God, at the place he will choose as a dwelling for his name, so that you may learn to revere the Lord your God always. But if that place is too distant, and you have been blessed by the Lord your God and cannot carry your tithe, because the place where the Lord will choose to put his name is so far away, then exchange your tithe for silver, and take the silver with you, and go to the place the Lord your God will choose. Use the silver to buy whatever you like: cattle, sheep, wine,
what if I'm too
or
far
other
away from
fermented
church?
drink, or anything you wish. Then you and your household shall
far is
eat
too
there
far?
in the presence of the Lord your God, and rejoice. And do not neglect the Levites living in your towns, for they have no allotment or inheritance
Yeah, if you can't
of their own.
bring it, just
At
like
the end of every 3
just sell
years,
it and then bring us the
bring
money.
all the tithes of that year's produce and store it in your towns, so that the Levites, who have no allotment or inheritance of their own, and the foreigners, the fatherless, and the widows who live in your towns may come and eat and be satisfied, and so that the Lord your God may bless you in all the work of your hands.
Chapter 15.
At the end of every 7 years you must cancel debts. This is how it is to be done. Every creditor shall cancel any loan they have made to a fellow Israelite. They shall not require payment from anyone among their own people, because the Lord's time for canceling debts has been proclaimed. You may require payment from a foreigner, but you must cancel any debt your fellow Israelite owes you. However, there need be no poor people among you, for in the land the Lord your God is giving you to possess as your inheritance, He will richly bless
I'm not
you.
gonna give
If
out
only
debt
you fully
if
obey
it's
the
just
Lord
gonna
your
get,
God,
I'm just gonna
and
stall
are
for 7
careful
years,
to
you
follow
know?
all these commands I am giving you today. For the Lord your God will bless you as He has promised, and you will lend to many nations, but will borrow from none. You will rule over many nations, but none will rule over you. If anyone is poor among your fellow Israelites in any of the towns of the land the Lord your God is giving you, do not be hard-hearted or tight-fisted toward them. Rather, be open-handed and freely lend them whatever they need. Be careful not to harbor this wicked thought. The 7th year, the year for canceling debts, is near, so that you do not show ill will toward the needy among your fellow Israelites and give them nothing. They may then appeal to the Lord against you, and you will be found guilty of sin. Give generously to them and do so without a grudging heart. Then because of this, the Lord your God will bless you in all your work and in everything you put your hand to. There will always be poor people in the land. Therefore, I command you to be open-handed toward your fellow Israelites who are poor and needy in your land. If any of your people, Hebrew men or women, sell themselves to you and serve you 6 years, in the 7th year you must let them go free. And when you release them, do not send them away empty-handed. Supply them liberally from your flock, your threshing floor, and your winepress. Give to them as the Lord your God has blessed you. Remember that you were slaves in Egypt, and the Lord your God redeemed you. That is why I give you this command today. But if your servant says to you, I do not want to leave you, because he loves you, and your family is well off with you, then take an awl and push it through his earlobe into the door, and he will become your servant for life.
What the
Do
fuck?
the same for your female servant. Do not consider it a hardship to set your servant free, because their service to you these 6 years has been worth twice as much as that of a hired hand. And the Lord your God will bless you in everything you do.
Cool.
Set apart for the Lord your God every firstborn male of your herds and flocks. Do not put the firstborn of your cows to work, and do not shear the firstborn of your sheep. Each year you and your family are to eat them in the presence of the Lord your God at the place He will choose. If an animal has a defect, is lame or blind, or has any serious flaw, you must not sacrifice it to the Lord your God. You are to eat it in your own towns. Both the ceremonially unclean and the clean may eat it, as if it were gazelle or deer. But you must not eat the blood. Pour it out on the ground like water.
Chapter 16.
This seems
Observe the month of
super
Aviv,
abusable.
and
I don't know if
celebrate
you can
the
enforce that.
Passover of the Lord your God. Because in the month
Oh
of
yeah,
Aviv,
Billy.
He brought you
Run
out
that
of
shit
Egypt
back.
by night. Sacrifice
I can't believe
as the
we
Passover
repeat this shit
to the
in
Lord
3
your
straight
God
books.
an animal from your flock or herd at the place the Lord will choose as a dwelling for His name. Do not eat it with bread made with yeast, but for 7 days eat unleavened bread, the bread of affliction, because you left Egypt in haste, so that all the days of your life you may remember the time of your departure.
Yep, I'm gonna run ads and
from
take a
Egypt.
piss
Let
while
no
we
yeast
talk about
be
Passover
found in
for the
your
14th
possession
time.
in
I'll be right
all
back.
your land for 7 days. Do not let any of the meat you sacrifice on the evening of the first day remain until morning. You must not sacrifice the Passover in any town the Lord your God gives you, except in the place He will choose as a dwelling for His name. There you must sacrifice the Passover in the evening, when the sun goes down, on the anniversary of your departure from Egypt. Roast it and eat it at the place the Lord your God will choose. Then in the morning return to your tents. For 6 days eat unleavened bread, and on the 7th day hold an assembly to the Lord your God, and do no work. Count off 7 weeks from the time you begin to put the sickle to the standing grain. Then celebrate the festival of weeks to the Lord your God by giving a free will offering in proportion to the blessings the Lord your God has given you. And rejoice before the Lord your God at the place he will choose as a dwelling for his name. You, your sons and daughters, your male and female servants, the Levites in your towns, and the foreigners, the fatherless, and the widows living among you. Remember that you were slaves in Egypt, and follow carefully these decrees. Celebrate the festival of tabernacles for 7 days after you have gathered the produce of your threshing floor and your winepress. Be joyful at your festival, you, your sons and daughters, your male and female servants, and the Levites, the foreigners, the fatherless, and the widows who live in your towns. For 7 days celebrate the festival to the Lord your God at the place the Lord will choose. For the Lord your God will bless you in all your harvest and in all the work of your hands, and your joy will be complete. 3 times a year all your men must appear before the Lord your God at the place he will choose, at the festival of unleavened bread, the festival of weeks, and the festival of tabernacles. No one should appear before the Lord empty-handed. Each of you must bring a gift in proportion to the way the Lord your God has blessed you. Appoint judges and officials for each of your tribes.
Does he
in
know?
every town
He
the
says
Lord
this
your God
isn't proportionate.
is giving you, and they shall judge the people fairly. Do not pervert justice or show partiality. Do not accept a bribe, for a bribe blinds the eyes of the wise and twists the words of the innocent. Follow justice, and justice alone, so that you may live and possess the land the Lord your God is giving you. Do not set up any wooden Asherah pole beside the altar you build to the Lord your God, and do not erect a sacred stone, for these the Lord your God hates.
He's all-knowing, of course he knows. Just tell me what you want, man.
Do not sacrifice to the Lord your God.
Just tell me what you want and I'll give it. It's like doing taxes in America. Just fucking how much do I owe?
For that
just
would
tell
be
me.
detestable to him. If a man or woman living among you in one of the
figure it out
towns
for
the Lord
myself?
gives you is found doing evil in the eyes of the Lord your God, in violation of his covenant, and contrary to my command has worshipped other gods, bowing down to them or to the sun, or the moon, or the stars in the sky, and this has been brought to your attention, then you must investigate it thoroughly. If it is true, and it has been proved that this detestable thing has been done in Israel, take the man or woman who has done this evil deed to your city gate and stone that person to death. On the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses, a person is to be put to death, but no one is to be put to death on the testimony of only 1 witness. The
2
hands
or
of
3?
the witnesses must be the first in
2
putting
is
that
what you
person
mean.
to
Why
death,
even?
and then
What do you
the
mean
hands
2
of
or
all
3?
the people. You must purge the evil from
It's
among
2.
you. If cases come before your courts that are too difficult for you to judge, whether bloodshed, lawsuits, or assaults, take them to the place the Lord your God will choose. Go to the Levitical priests and to the judge who is in office at that time. Inquire of them, and they will give you the verdict. You must act according to the decisions they give you at the place the Lord will choose.
Begging.
Be careful to do everything they instruct you to do.
We are
Act
begging for
according
corruption.
to whatever they teach you and the decisions they give you. Do not turn aside
If you go to a
from what
Levitical
they tell you,
priest,
to the right,
they'll give
or
you the
to
right
the
answer.
left. Anyone who shows contempt for the judge or for the priest who stands ministering there to the Lord your God,
They are
is
the
to be
highest
put
authority.
to death. You must purge the evil from Israel. All the people will hear and be afraid, and will not be contemptuous again. When you enter the land the Lord your God is giving you, and have taken possession of it, and settled in it, and you say, "Let us set a king over us like all the nations around us," be sure to appoint over you a king the Lord your God chooses.
What does that
He
mean?
must be from among your fellow Israelites.
How do you
not
know?
place a foreigner over you, one who is not an Israelite. The king, moreover, must not acquire great numbers of horses for himself, or make the people return to Egypt to get more of them. For the Lord has told you,
You are not to go back that way again.
He must not take many wives, or his heart will be led astray. He must not accumulate large amounts of silver and gold. When he takes the throne of his kingdom, he is to write for himself on a scroll a copy of this law, taken from that of the Levitical priests. It is to be with him, and he is to read it all the days of his life, so that he may learn to revere the Lord his God and follow carefully all the words of this law and these decrees, and not consider himself better than his fellow Israelites, and turn from the law to the right or to the left. Then he and his descendants will reign a long time over his kingdom in Israel.
Chapter 18.
The Levitical priests, indeed the whole tribe of Levi, are to have no allotment or inheritance with Israel. They shall live on the food offerings presented to the Lord, for that is their inheritance. They shall have no inheritance among their fellow Israelites. The Lord is their inheritance, as he promised them. This is the share due the priests from the people who sacrifice a bull or a sheep, the shoulder, the internal organs, and the meat from the head. You are to give them the firstfruits of your grain, new wine, and olive oil, and the first wool from the shearing of your sheep. For the Lord your God has chosen them and their descendants out of all your tribes to stand and minister in the Lord's name always. If a Levite moves from one of your towns anywhere in Israel where he is living, and comes in all earnestness to the place the Lord will choose, he may minister in the name of the Lord his God, like all his fellow Levites who serve there in the presence of the Lord. He is to share equally in their benefits, even though he has received money from the sale of family possessions. When you enter the land the Lord your God is giving you, do not learn to imitate the detestable ways of the nations there. Let no one be found among you who sacrifices their son or daughter in the fire, who practices divination or sorcery, interprets omens, engages in witchcraft, or casts spells, or who is a medium or spiritist, or who consults the dead. Anyone who does these things is detestable to the Lord. Because of these same detestable practices, the Lord your God will drive out those nations before you. You must be blameless before the Lord your God. The nations you will dispossess, listen to those.
Dude, the Lord has some work to do, because there's a lot of nations that
But as for you, the Lord your God has not permitted
don't do
you
that
to
thing
do
that he's
so.
describing.
The Lord your God will raise up for you a prophet like me from among you, from your fellow Israelites. You must listen to him. For this is what you asked of the Lord your God at Horeb on the day of the assembly, when you said,
"Let us not hear the voice of the Lord our God, nor see this great fire anymore, or we will die."
The Lord said to me,
What they say is good. I will raise up for them a prophet like you from among their fellow Israelites, and I will put my words in his mouth. He will tell them everything I command him. I myself will call to account anyone who does not listen to my words that the prophet speaks in my name. But a prophet who presumes to speak in my name anything I have not commanded, or a prophet who speaks in the name of other gods, is to be put to death.
It's such a
You may say to
impossible
yourselves,
How
to
can
counter
we know
argument,
when a
you
message
know?
has not been spoken by the
Like,
Lord?
well,
If
the
what
prophet has to be telling the
proclaims
truth,
name of the
otherwise he
Lord
would
does
die.
not take place or come
Because
true,
the mouthpiece
that
of
is
the
a
Lord
message
said
the Lord
so.
has not spoken. That prophet has spoken presumptuously, so do not be alarmed.
Chapter 19.
When the Lord your
It's
God
it's
has
just it's
destroyed the
impossible to
nations whose
disprove
land
whether or
he
not
has
the
given
prophet
you, and when you have driven them
is
out and settled
speaking
in their
for the
towns
Lord
and
or not.
houses, then set aside for yourselves 3 cities
because
in the land
according
the Lord
to
your
the
God
text,
has
they
given
have to
you
be speaking
possess.
for the Lord,
Determine
otherwise
the
they would be
distances
killed.
involved, and divide into 3 parts the land the Lord your God is giving you as an inheritance.
The cities of
So
refuge.
that a person who kills
It's
someone
Murder
may
Town.
flee for refuge to one of
This is
these
my favorite part of the
cities.
Bible, actually, is Murder
This
Town.
is the rule concerning anyone who kills a person and flees there for safety.
It's
Anyone
just crazy
who
that we have
kills a
Murder
neighbor
Town.
unintentionally, without malice or forethought. For instance, a man may go into the forest with his neighbor to cut wood. And as he swings his axe to fell a tree, the head may fly off and hit his neighbor and kill him. That man may flee to one of these cities and save his life. Otherwise, the avenger of blood might pursue him in a rage, overtake him if the distance is too great, and kill him even though he is not deserving of death, since he did it to his neighbor without malice aforethought. This is why I command you to set aside for yourselves 3 cities. If the Lord your God enlarges your territory, as he promised on oath to your ancestors, and gives you the whole land he promised them, because you carefully follow all these laws I command you today, to love the Lord your God and to walk always in obedience to him, then you are to set aside 3 more cities. Do this so that innocent blood will not be shed in your land, which the Lord your God is giving you as your inheritance, and so that you will not be guilty of bloodshed. But if out of hate someone lies in wait, assaults and kills a neighbor, and then flees to one of these cities, the killer shall be sent for by the town elders, be brought back from the city, and be handed over to the avenger of blood to die. Show no pity. You must purge from Israel the guilt of shedding innocent blood, so that it may go well with you. Do not move your neighbor's boundary stone set up by your predecessors in the inheritance you receive in the land the Lord your God is giving you to possess.
What?
One witness is not enough to convict anyone accused of any crime or offense they may have committed. A matter must be established by the testimony of 2
just maintain
or 3
the status
witnesses.
quo in terms of boundaries.
If a malicious witness takes the
I don't know
stand
about
to
that.
accuse someone of a crime, the 2 people involved in the dispute must stand in the presence of the Lord before the priests and the judges who are in office at the time. The judges must make a thorough investigation, and if the witness proves to be a liar, giving false testimony against a fellow Israelite,
We had 3
then
murder
do
cities in
to
America.
the false witness as that witness intended
all 3
to
of them
do
would be in North
to the
Dakota.
other party. You must
That's where we
purge
put them
the
all.
evil from among you. The rest of the people will
Among
hear
you?
of this and be afraid, and never again will such an evil thing be done among you. Show no pity. Life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot.
Chapter 20.
When you go to war against your enemies, and see horses and chariots, and an army greater than yours, do not be afraid of them. Because the Lord your God, who brought you up out of Egypt, will be with you.
We are literally the Holy
When
Army.
you are about to go into battle, the priest shall come forward and address the army.
That's crazy.
He shall say,
Hear, Israel, today you are going into battle against your enemies. Do not be faint-hearted or afraid. Do not panic or be terrified by them. For the Lord your God is the one who goes with you to fight for you against your enemies, to give you victory.
The officers shall say to the army,
Has anyone built a new house and not yet begun to live in it? Let him go home, or he may die in battle, and someone else may begin to live in it. Has anyone planted a vineyard and not begun to enjoy it? Let him go home, or he may die in battle, and someone else enjoy it. Has anyone become pledged to a woman and not married her? Let him go home, or he may die in battle, and someone else marry her.
Then the officers shall add,
Is anyone afraid or faint-hearted? Let him go home, so that his fellow soldiers will not become disheartened too.
When the officers have finished speaking to the army, they shall appoint commanders over it. When you march up to attack a city, make its people an offer of peace. If they accept and open their gates,
a wild one.
all the people in it shall be subject to forced labor and shall work for you. If they refuse to make peace,
if
and
you're
they
scared,
engage you in battle,
you're allowed to
lay
leave.
siege to that city. When the Lord your God delivers it into your hand,
He says,
put to the
we'll
sword
probably be fine.
all the men in it. As for the women, the children, the livestock, and everything else in the city, you may take these as plunder for yourselves, and you may use the plunder the Lord your God gives you from your enemies.
You can take the children as
This
plunder?
is how you are to treat all the cities that are at a distance from you and do not belong to the nations nearby. However, in the cities of the nations the Lord your God is giving you as an inheritance, do not leave alive anything that breathes, Completely destroy them. The Hittites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites,
we hate these guys.
as the Lord your
These
God
guys are the
has
worst
commanded
guys.
you. Otherwise they will teach you to follow all the detestable things they do in worshiping their gods, and you will sin against the Lord your God. When you lay siege to a city for a long time, fighting against it to capture it, do not destroy its trees by putting an axe to them, because you can eat their fruit. Do not cut them down. Are the trees people, that you should besiege them? However, you may cut down trees that you know are not fruit trees, and use them to build siege works, until the city at war with you falls.
Chapter 21.
If someone is found slain, lying in a field in the land the Lord your God is giving you to possess, and it is not known who the killer was, your elders and judges shall go out and measure the distance from the body to the neighboring towns. Then the elders of the town nearest the body shall take a heifer that has never been worked and has never worn a yoke, and lead it down to a valley that has not been plowed or planted, and where there is a flowing stream. There in the valley they are to break the heifer's neck. The Levitical priests shall step forward, for the Lord your God has chosen them to minister and to pronounce blessings in the name of the Lord, and to decide all cases of dispute and assault. Then all the elders of the town nearest the body shall wash their hands over the heifer whose neck was broken in the valley, and they shall declare,
Our hands did not shed this blood, nor did our eyes see it done. Accept this atonement for your people Israel, whom you have redeemed, Lord, and do not hold your people guilty of the blood of an innocent person.
Then the bloodshed will be atoned for, and you will have purged from yourselves the guilt of shedding innocent blood, since you have done what is right in the eyes of the Lord.
Cool.
When you go to war against your enemies, and the Lord your God delivers them into your hands, and you take captives, if you notice among the captives a beautiful woman, and are attracted to her, you may take her as your wife. Bring her into your home, and have her shave her head, trim her nails, and put aside the clothes she was wearing when captured. After she has lived in your house and mourned her father and mother for a full month, then you may go to her and be her husband, and she shall be your wife. If you are not pleased with her, let her go wherever she wishes. You must not sell her or
if she's
treat
not
her
pleased
as
with
a
you?
slave, since you have dishonored her. If a man has 2 wives, and he loves one but not the other, and both bear him sons, but the firstborn is the son of the wife he does not love, when he wills his property to his sons, he must not give the rights of the firstborn to the son of the wife he loves, in preference to his actual firstborn.
You have to give it to the real one.
He must acknowledge the son of his unloved wife as the firstborn by giving him a double share of all he has. That son is the first sign of his father's strength. The right of the firstborn belongs to him. If someone has a stubborn and rebellious son who does not obey his father and mother, and will not listen to them when they discipline him, his father and mother shall take hold of him and bring him to the elders at the gate of his town. They shall say to the elders,
This son of ours is stubborn and rebellious. He will not obey us. He is a glutton and a drunkard.
Then all the men of his town are to stone him to death. You must purge the evil from among you. All Israel will hear of it and be afraid. If someone guilty of a capital offense is put to death and their body is exposed on a pole, you must not leave the body hanging on the pole overnight.
What?
Be sure to bury it that same day, because anyone who is hung on a pole is under God's curse. You must not desecrate the land the Lord your God is giving you as an inheritance.
Chapter 22.
If you see your fellow Israelites' ox or sheep straying, do not ignore it, but be sure to take it back to its owner. If they do not live near you, or if you do not know who owns it, take it
yeah,
home
sorry,
with you and
Judge.
keep it
I had
until
to
they come
stone
looking
my
for
son
it.
to death
Then
because
give it
he
back.
wouldn't shut off that gosh
Do the
darned
same
rock
if you
music.
find their donkey or cloak or anything else they have lost. Do not ignore it. If you see your fellow Israelites' donkey or ox fallen on the road, do not ignore it. Help the owner get it to its feet. A woman must not wear men's clothing, nor a man wear women's clothing, for the Lord your God detests anyone who does this. If you come across a bird's nest beside the road, either in a tree or on the ground, and the mother is sitting on the young or on the eggs, do not take the mother with the young. You may take the young, but be sure to let the mother go, so that it may go well with you, and you may have a long life.
What?
When you build
really
a new house,
that's some
make a
weird shit to put
parapet
back to
around
back.
your
Yeah,
roof,
don't
so
wear,
that you may not
don't
bring
cross
the
dress,
guilt
and
of
also
bloodshed
don't
on
fuck
your
with
house if someone falls from
don't
the
fuck
roof.
with the mom of a
Do
bird
not
nest that
plant
you
two
find.
kinds of seed in your vineyard. If you do, not only the crops you plant, but also the fruit of the vineyard will be defiled. Do not plow with an ox and a donkey yoked together. Do not wear clothes of wool and linen woven together.
You should use that as a
Make
reason against
tassels
trans
on
people.
the
Why are
four
they against
corners
stoning their
of the
kids?
cloak
Yeah, that's
you
what I'm
wear.
saying.
If a man takes a wife, and after sleeping with her, dislikes her, and slanders her, and gives her a bad name, saying,
I married this woman, but when I approached her, I did not find proof of her virginity.
Then the young woman's father and mother shall bring to the town elders at the gate proof that she was a virgin. Her father will say to the elders,
I gave my daughter in marriage to this man, but he dislikes her. Now he has slandered her and said, I did not find your daughter to be a virgin. But here is the proof of my daughter's virginity.
How do you prove it?
Then her parents shall display the cloth before the elders of the town, and the elders shall take the man and punish him. They shall fine him 100 shekels of silver, and give them to the young woman's father, because this man has given an Israelite virgin a bad name. She shall continue to be his wife. He must not divorce her as long as he lives.
Bro,
if,
what?
However, the charge is true,
What if she wants
and
out?
no
I wouldn't want to
proof
be
of
in
the young
that.
woman's virginity can be found, she shall be brought to the door of her father's house, and there the men of her town shall stone her to death. She has done an outrageous thing in Israel by being promiscuous while still in her father's house. You must purge the evil from among you. If a man is found sleeping with another man's wife, both the man who slept with her and the woman must die. You must purge the evil from Israel. If a man happens to meet in a town a virgin pledged to be married, and he sleeps with her, you shall take both of them to the gate of that town and stone them to death. The young woman, because she was in a town and did not scream for help, and the man, because he violated another man's wife. You must purge the evil from among you. But if out in the country a man happens to meet a young woman pledged to be married and rapes her, only the man who has done this shall die. Do nothing to the woman. She has committed no sin deserving death. This case is like that of someone who attacks and murders a neighbor. For the man found the young woman out in the country, and though the betrothed woman screamed, there was no one to rescue her. If a man happens to meet a virgin who is not pledged to be married and rapes her, and they are discovered, he shall pay her father 50 shekels of silver. He must marry the young woman, for he has violated her. He can never divorce her as long as he lives.
Sheesh,
A
man.
man is not to marry his father's wife. He must not dishonor his father's bed.
Chapter 23.
No one who has been emasculated by crushing or cutting may enter the assembly of the Lord. No one born of a forbidden marriage, nor any of their descendants may enter the assembly of the Lord, not even in the 10th generation.
Yo, what the
no
fuck?
Ammonite or Moabite.
You're born
or
out of
any
wedlock?
their
You're
descendants
forbidden
may
from the
enter
church.
The assembly of the Lord, not even in the 10th generation. For they did not come to meet you with bread and water on your way when you came out of Egypt. And they hired Balaam, son of Beor, from Pethor, in Aram Naharaim, to pronounce a curse on you. However, the Lord your God would not listen to Balaam, but turn the curse into a blessing for you, because the Lord your God loves you. Do not seek a treaty of friendship with them as long as you live. Do not despise an Edomite, for the Edomites are related to you. Do not despise an Egyptian, because you resided as foreigners in their country. The third generation of children born to them may enter the assembly of the Lord. When you are encamped against your enemies, keep away from everything impure. If one of your men is unclean because of a nocturnal emission, he is to go outside the camp and stay there.
The 10th generation.
But as evening approaches,
my great-great-great-great-great-grandfather had sex out of wedlock. I can't come to church.
Designate a place outside the camp where you can go to relieve yourself. As part of your equipment, have something to dig with, and when you relieve yourself, dig a hole and cover up your excrement. For the Lord your God moves about in your camp to protect you and to deliver your enemies.
Thus the Lord said,
your camp must be holy, so that he will not see among you anything indecent and turn away from you. If a slave has taken refuge with you, do not hand them over to their master. Let them live among you wherever they like and in whatever town they choose. Do not oppress them. No Israelite man or woman is to become a shrine prostitute. You must not bring the earnings of a female prostitute or of a male prostitute into the house of the Lord your God to pay any vow, because the Lord your God detests them both. Do not charge a fellow Israelite interest, whether on money or food or anything else that may earn interest. You may charge a foreigner interest, but not a fellow Israelite, so that the Lord your God may bless you in everything you put your hand to in the land you are entering to possess. If you make a vow to the Lord your God, do not be slow to pay it, for the Lord your God will certainly demand it of you, and you will be guilty of sin. But if you refrain from making a vow, you will not be guilty. Whatever your lips utter, you must be sure to do, because you made your vow freely to the Lord your God with your own mouth. If you enter your neighbor's vineyard, you may eat all the grapes you want, but do not put any in your basket. If you enter your neighbor's grain field, you may pick kernels with your hands, but you must not put a sickle to their standing grain.
Yeah, if you can just go there and take what you want, actually.
Chapter 24.
If a man marries a woman who becomes displeasing to him because he finds something indecent about her, and he writes her a certificate of divorce, gives it to her, and sends her from his house, and if after she leaves his house she becomes the wife of another man, and her second husband dislikes her, and writes her a certificate of divorce, gives it to her, and sends her from his house, or if he dies, then her first husband, who divorced her, is not allowed to marry her again after she has been defiled. That would be detestable in the eyes of the Lord.
Didn't we say that you were not to get divorced in a prior
book? The Lord your God is giving you as
Am I misremembering?
If a man has recently married, he must not be sent to war or have any other duty laid on him. For 1 year he is to be free to stay at home and bring happiness to the wife he has married. Do not take a pair of millstones, not even the upper one, as security for a debt, because that would be taking a person's livelihood as security. If someone is caught kidnapping a fellow Israelite and treating or selling them as a slave, the kidnapper must die. You must purge the evil from among you. In cases of defiling skin diseases, be very careful to do exactly as the Levitical priests instruct you. You must follow carefully what I have commanded them. Remember what the Lord your God did to Miriam along the way after you came out of Egypt. When you make a loan of any kind to your neighbor, do not go into their house to get what is offered to you as a pledge. Stay outside and let the neighbor to whom you are making the loan bring the pledge out to you. If the neighbor is poor, do not go to sleep with their pledge in your possession. Return their cloak by sunset so that your neighbor may sleep in it. Then they will thank you, and it will be regarded as a righteous act in the sight of the Lord your God. Do not take advantage of a hired worker who is poor and needy, whether that worker is a fellow Israelite or a foreigner residing in one of your towns. Pay them their wages each day before sunset, because they are poor and are counting on it. Otherwise, they may cry to the Lord against you, and you will be guilty of sin. Parents are not to be put to death for their children.
Pretty
nor
critical
children
of
put to death
capitalism,
for their
taking
parents.
advantage of
Each will
hired
die
workers who
for
are
their
poor and
own
needy.
sin.
That's
Do
literally
not deprive
how
the
America
foreigner
works.
or the fatherless of justice, or take the cloak of the widow as a pledge. Remember that you were slaves in Egypt, and the Lord your God redeemed you from there. That is why I command you to do this. When you are harvesting in your field and you overlook a sheaf, do not go back to get it. Leave it for the foreigner, the fatherless, and the widow, so that the Lord your God may bless you in all the work of your hands.
What is this
When
about?
you beat the olives from your trees, do not go over the branches a second time. Leave what remains for the foreigner, the fatherless, and the widow. When you harvest the grapes in your vineyard, do not go over the vines again. Leave what remains for the foreigner, the fatherless, and the widow. Remember that you were slaves in Egypt. That is why I command you to do this.
Chapter 25.
When people have a dispute, they are to take it to court, and the judges will decide the case, acquitting the innocent and condemning the guilty. If the guilty person deserves to be beaten, the judge shall make them lie down and have them flogged in his presence with the number of lashes the crime deserves.
How many
But
is
the judge
appropriate?
must not impose more than 40 lashes. If the guilty party is flogged
Okay,
more than
40
that,
lashes.
your
That's
fellow
the most
Israelite
we can
will be
do.
degraded in your eyes. Do not muzzle an ox while it is treading out the grain. If brothers are living together and one of them dies without a son, his widow must not marry outside the family. Her husband's brother shall take her and marry her and fulfill the duty of a brother-in-law to her. The first son she bears
Dude, this
shall
one's
carry
really
on
fucked
the
up.
name of the dead brother, so that his name will not be blotted out from Israel. However, if a man does not want to marry his brother's wife, she shall go to the elders at the town gate and say,
My husband's brother refuses to carry on his brother's name in Israel. He will not fulfill the duty of a brother-in-law to me.
Then the elders of his town shall summon him and talk to him. If he persists in saying,
I do not want to marry her,
his brother's widow shall go up to him in the presence of the elders, take off one of his sandals, spit in his face, and say,
This is what is done to the man who will not build up his brother's family line.
That man's line shall be known in Israel as the family of the unsandaled. If two men are fighting, and the wife of one of them comes to rescue her husband from his assailant, and she reaches out and seizes him by his private parts, you shall cut off her hand. Show her no pity.
You can't grab a man's nuts.
One heavy, one light. Do not have two differing measures in your house, one large, one small. You must have accurate and honest weights and measures, so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you. For the Lord your God detests anyone who does these things, anyone who deals dishonestly. Remember what the Amalekites did to you along the way when you came out of Egypt. When you were weary and worn out, they met you on your journey and attacked all who were lagging behind. They had no fear of God. When the Lord your God gives you rest from all the enemies around you, in the land he is giving you to possess as an inheritance, you shall blot out the name of Amalek from under heaven. Do not forget.
Holy shit, these are some wild ones.
Chapter 26.
When you have entered the land the Lord your God is giving you as an inheritance, and have taken possession of it, and settled in it, take some of the firstfruits of all that you produce from the soil of the land the Lord your God is giving you, and put them in a basket. Then go to the place the Lord your God will choose as a dwelling for his name, and say to the priest in office at the time, I declare today to the Lord your God that I have come to the land the Lord swore to our ancestors to give us. The priest shall take the basket from your hands and set it down in front of the altar of the Lord your God. Then you shall declare before the Lord your God, My father was a wandering Aramean, and he went down into Egypt with a few people and lived there and became a great nation, powerful and numerous. But the Egyptians mistreated us and made us suffer, subjecting us to harsh labor. Then we cried out to the Lord, the God of our ancestors, and the Lord heard our voice and saw our misery, toil, and oppression. So the Lord brought us out of Egypt with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm, with great terror and with signs and wonders. He brought us to this place and gave us this land, a land flowing with milk and honey. And now I bring the firstfruits of the soil that you, Lord, have given me. Place the basket before the Lord your God and bow down before him. Then you and the Levites and the foreigners residing among you shall rejoice in all the good things the Lord your God has given to you and your household. When you have finished setting aside 1/10 of all your produce in the 3rd year, the year of the tithe, you shall give it to the Levite, the foreigner, the fatherless, and the widow, so that they may eat in your towns and be satisfied. Then say to the Lord your God, I have removed from my house the sacred portion, and have given it to the Levite, the foreigner, the fatherless, and the widow, according to all you commanded. I have not turned aside from your commands, nor have I forgotten any of them. I have not eaten any of the sacred portion while I was in mourning, nor have I removed any of it while I was unclean, nor have I offered any of it to the dead. I have obeyed the Lord my God. I have done everything you commanded me. Look down from heaven, your holy dwelling place, and bless your people Israel, and the land you have given us, as you promised on oath to our ancestors, a land flowing with milk and honey. The Lord your God commands you this day to follow these decrees and laws. Carefully observe them with all your heart and with all your soul. You have declared this day that the Lord is your God, and that you will walk in obedience to him, that you will keep his decrees, commands, and laws, that you will listen to him. And the Lord has declared this day that you are his people, his treasured possession as he promised, and that you are to keep all his commands. He has declared that he will set you in praise, fame, and honor high above all the nations he has made, and that you will be a people holy to the Lord your God, as he promised.
We have probably repeated
Chapter
like
27.
100 times
Moses
thus far
and the elders of Israel commanded the people,
how much
Keep
of
all
special
these
little
commands that I
boys
give
the
you
Israelites
today.
are
When you have crossed the Jordan
compared to
into the
everyone
land
else.
the Lord your God is giving
And I feel like it's not really
set
earned.
up some large stones and coat them with plaster. Write on them all the words of this
Why
law
are we special
when you
boys?
have crossed over to enter the land the Lord your God is giving you, a land flowing with milk and honey, just as the Lord, the God of your ancestors, promised you. And when you have crossed the Jordan, set up these stones on Mount Ebal, as I command you today, and coat them with plaster. Build there an altar to the Lord your God, an altar of stones. Do not use any iron tool on them. Build the altar of the Lord your God with field stones, and offer burnt offerings on it to the Lord your God. Sacrifice fellowship offerings there, eating them and rejoicing in the presence of the Lord your God. And you shall write very clearly all the words of this law on these stones you have set up.
Then Moses and the Levitical priests said to all Israel,
Be silent, Israel, and listen. You have now become the people of the Lord your God. Obey the Lord your God and follow his commands and decrees that I give you today.
On the same day Moses commanded the people,
When you have crossed the Jordan, these tribes shall stand on Mount Gerizim to bless the people: Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Joseph, and Benjamin. And these tribes shall stand on Mount Ebal to pronounce curses: Reuben, Gad, Asher, Zebulun, Dan, and Naphtali. The Levites shall recite to all the people of Israel in a loud voice,
Cursed is anyone who makes an idol, a thing detestable to the Lord, the work of skilled hands, and sets it up in secret.
Then all the people shall say,
Amen. Cursed is anyone who dishonors their father or mother.
Then all the people shall say,
Amen. Cursed is anyone who moves their neighbor's boundary stone.
Then all the people shall say,
Amen. Cursed is anyone who leads the blind astray on the road.
Then all the people
Is this
shall
the first
say,
time we're saying amen?
Cursed is
In the
anyone
Bible.
who withholds justice from the foreigner,
First time
the
I can remember.
fatherless, or the widow.
Then all the people shall say,
Amen.
Cursed is anyone who sleeps with his father's wife, for he dishonors his father's bed.
Then all the people shall say,
Amen.
Cursed is anyone who has sexual relations with any animal.
Then all the people shall say,
Amen. Cursed is anyone who sleeps with his sister, the daughter of his father, or the daughter of his mother.
We've really
Then all the
retconned this
people
one,
shall
huh?
say,
Amen.
Cursed is anyone who sleeps with his mother-in-law.
Then all the people shall say,
Amen. Cursed is anyone who kills their neighbor secretly.
Then all the people shall say,
Amen.
Cursed is anyone who accepts a bribe to kill an innocent person.
Then all the people shall say,
Amen. Cursed is anyone who does not uphold the words of this law by carrying them out.
Then all the people shall say,
Amen.
Chapter 28.
We found
If
a
you
lead
fully
cursed
obey the
tablet
Lord
from
your
biblical
God
times on
and
Mount Ebal
carefully
recently.
follow all his commands I give
Is
you
that so?
today, the Lord your God will set you high above all the nations on earth. All these blessings will come on you and
didn't
accompany
take those
you
with them?
if you obey the Lord your God.
Just left them there.
You will be blessed in the city and blessed in the country. The fruit of your womb will be blessed, and the crops of your land, and the young of your livestock, the calves of your herds, and the lambs of your flocks. Your basket and your kneading trough will be blessed. You will be blessed when you come in and blessed when you go out. The Lord will grant that the enemies who rise up against you will be defeated before you. They will come at you from one direction but flee from you in 7. The Lord will send a blessing on your barns and on everything you put your hand to. The Lord your God will bless you in the land he is giving you. The Lord will establish you as his holy people, as he promised you on oath, if you keep the commands of the Lord your God and walk in obedience to him. Then all the peoples on earth will see that you are called by the name of the Lord, and they will fear you. The Lord will grant you abundant prosperity in the fruit of your womb, the young of your livestock, and the crops of your ground, in the land he swore to your ancestors to give you. The Lord will open the heavens, the storehouse of his bounty, to send rain on your land in season, and to bless all the work of your hands. You will lend to many nations, but will borrow from none. The Lord will make you the head, not the tail, if you pay attention to the commands of the Lord your God that I give you this day, and carefully follow them. You will always be at the top, never at the bottom. Do not turn aside from any of the commands I give you today, to the right or to the left, following other gods and serving them. However, if you do not obey the Lord your God, and do not carefully follow all his commands and decrees I am giving you today, all these curses will come on you and overtake you. You will be cursed in the city and cursed in the country. Your basket and your kneading trough will be cursed. The fruit of your womb will be cursed, and the crops of your land, and the calves of your herds, and the lambs of your flocks. You will be cursed when you come in, and cursed when you go out. The Lord will send on you curses, confusion, and rebuke in everything you put your hand to, until you are destroyed and come to sudden ruin because of the evil you have done in forsaking him. The Lord will plague you with diseases, until he has destroyed you from the land you are entering to possess. The Lord will strike you with wasting disease, with fever and inflammation, with scorching heat and drought, with blight and mildew, which will plague you until you perish. The sky over your head will be bronze, the ground beneath you iron. The Lord will turn the rain of your country into dust and powder. It will come down from the skies until you are destroyed. The Lord will cause you to be defeated before your enemies. You will come at them from one direction, but flee from them in 7. And you will become a thing of horror to all the kingdoms on earth.
That we go
your
to
carcasses will be food for all
to talk
the
about what
birds
happens
and
if
the
you
wild
do not
animals,
follow
and
the
there
word
will
of
be
God.
no one to frighten them away. The Lord will afflict you with the boils
psychotic
of
levels
Egypt, and with tumors,
of
festering
detail as
sores,
to how
and
he's
the
going to
itch
fuck you up.
from which you cannot be cured. The Lord will afflict you with madness, blindness, and confusion
Every
of
perceivable
mind.
bad thing
At
that can
midday,
happen will happen to
grope
you
about like a blind
if you
person in the
disobey
dark.
God.
You will be unsuccessful in everything you do. Day after day, you will be oppressed and robbed, with no one to rescue
Come
you.
on.
You will be pledged to be married to a woman, but another will take her and rape her. You will build a house, but you will not live in it.
Like,
you will plant a vineyard,
constantly
but you will
just
not
told
even
from the
begin
story
to
of the
enjoy
man.
its fruit. Your ox will be
What if I'm a
slaughtered
woman and
before
I
your
disobey
eyes,
God?
but you will eat none of it. Your donkey will be forcibly
It's like the worst
taken
thing that
from
could
you
happen to a
and
man is to
will not
have
be
his
returned. Your sheep
wife
will
raped
be given
by somebody
to your
else.
enemies, and no one will rescue them. Your sons and daughters will be given to another nation, and you will wear out your eyes watching for them day after day, powerless to lift a hand. A people that you do not know will eat what your land and labor produce, and you will have nothing but cruel oppression all your days. The sights you see will drive you mad. The Lord will afflict your knees and legs with painful boils that cannot be cured, spreading from the soles of your feet to the top of your head. The Lord will drive you and the king you set over you to a nation unknown to you or your ancestors. There you will worship other gods, gods of wood and stone. You will become a thing of horror, a byword and an object of ridicule among all the peoples where the Lord will drive you. You will sow much seed in the field, but you will harvest little, because locusts will devour it. You will plant vineyards and cultivate them, but you will not drink the wine or gather the grapes, because worms will eat them. You will have olive trees throughout your country, but you will not use the oil, because the olives will drop off. You will have sons and daughters, but you will not keep them, because they will go into captivity. Swarms of locusts will take over all your trees and the crops of your land. The foreigners who reside among you will rise above you higher and higher, but you will sink lower and lower. They will lend to you, but you will not lend to them. They will be the head, but you will be the tail. All these curses will come on you. They will pursue you and overtake you until you are destroyed, because you did not obey the Lord your God and observe the commands and decrees he gave you. They will be a sign and a wonder to you and your descendants forever, because you did not serve the Lord your God joyfully and gladly in the time of prosperity. Therefore, in hunger and thirst, in nakedness and dire poverty, you will serve the enemies the Lord sends against you. He will put an iron yoke on your neck until he has destroyed you. The Lord will bring a nation against you from far away, from the ends of the earth, like an eagle swooping down, a nation whose language you will not understand, a fierce-looking nation without respect for the old or pity for the young. They will devour the young of your livestock and the crops of your land until you are destroyed.
Man, like
They
all
will
of this,
give you no grain, new
is it
wine,
just
or
one thing,
olive
or
oil,
like will all of
nor
them
any
happen?
calves of your herds or lambs of your flocks until you are ruined. They will lay siege to all the cities throughout your land until the high fortified walls in which you trust fall down. They will besiege all the cities throughout the land the Lord your God is giving you. Because of the suffering that your enemy will inflict on you during the siege, you will eat the fruit of the womb, the flesh of the sons and daughters the Lord your God has given you. Even the most gentle and sensitive man among you will have no compassion on his own brother or the wife he loves or his surviving children.
Fruit of the womb, is that...
And he will not give to one of them any of the flesh of his children that he is eating.
Why do we phrase it like that?
All he has left because of the suffering your enemy will inflict on you during the siege of all your cities. The most gentle and sensitive woman among you, so sensitive and gentle that she would not venture to touch the ground with the sole of her foot, will begrudge the husband she loves and her own son or daughter the afterbirth from her womb, and the children she bears. For in her dire need she intends to eat them secretly, because of the suffering your enemy will inflict on you during the siege of your cities. If you do not carefully follow
You're gonna get
all
so
the words
fucked
of
up
this
by a
law,
foreign
which
nation
are
that
written in this book,
the most
and do
gentle
not
woman will
revere this
seek to eat her
glorious
kids.
and awesome name, the Lord your God, the Lord will send fearful plagues on you and your descendants, harsh and prolonged disasters, and severe and
Oh my
lingering
God.
illnesses.
How much?
He will bring
How
on
much?
you all the diseases of Egypt that you dreaded, and they will cling to you. The Lord will also bring on you every kind of sickness and disaster
Merciful
not
God, by the
recorded
way.
in this book of the law until you are destroyed. You who are as numerous as the stars in the sky will be left but few in number, because you did not obey the Lord your God. Just as it pleased the Lord to make you prosper and increase in number, so it will please him to ruin and destroy you.
Imagine
You
what the
will
evil
be
gods would
uprooted
do.
from the land you are entering to possess. Then the Lord will scatter you among all nations, from one end of the earth to the other. There you will worship other gods, gods of wood and
Yeah, you said this
stone,
one a little
which
bit ago,
neither
man.
you nor your ancestors have known. Among those nations you will find no repose, no resting place for the sole of your foot. There the Lord will give you an anxious mind, eyes weary with longing, and a despairing heart. You will live in constant suspense, filled with dread both night and day, never sure of your life. In the morning you will say,
If only it were evening.
and in the evening,
If only it were morning.
because of the terror that will fill your hearts and the sights that your eyes will see. The Lord will send you back in ships to Egypt, on a journey I said you should never make again. There you will offer yourselves for sale to your enemies as male and female slaves, but no one will buy you.
Like fucking Jesus Christ, man. How long
Chapter
is this?
29. These are the terms of the covenant the Lord commanded Moses to make with the Israelites in Moab, in addition to the covenant he had
This
made
is the
with
most
them at Horeb.
loaded threat ever
Moses
conceived.
summoned all the Israelites and said to them,
Your eyes have seen all
Word
that the Lord
counter.
did in Egypt to Pharaoh, to all his officials, and to all his land.
That
With
is
your own
1,500
eyes you
words
saw
of
those
curse.
great trials, those signs and great wonders. But to this day the Lord has not given you a mind that understands, or eyes that see, or ears that hear. Yet the Lord says,
During the 40 years that I led you through the wilderness, your clothes did not wear out, nor did the sandals on your feet. You ate no bread and drank no wine or other fermented drink. I did this so that you might know that I am the Lord your God.
When you reached this place, Sihon king of Heshbon and Og king of Bashan came out to fight against us, but we defeated them. We took their land and gave it as an inheritance to the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh. Carefully follow the terms of this
Half-tribe.
covenant, so that you may prosper in everything you do. All of you are standing today in the presence of the Lord your God, your leaders and chief men, your elders and officials, and all the other men of Israel, together with your children and your wives, and the foreigners living in your camps, who chop your wood and carry your water. You are standing here in order to enter into a covenant with the Lord your God, a covenant the Lord is making with you this day and sealing with an oath, to confirm you this day as his people, that he may be your God, as he promised you, and as he swore to your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I am making this covenant with its oath, not only with you, who are standing here with us today in the presence of the Lord our God, but also with those who are not here today. You yourselves know how we lived in Egypt, and how we passed through the countries on the way here. You saw among them their detestable images and idols of wood and stone, of silver and gold. Make sure there is no man or woman, clan or tribe among you today whose heart turns away from the Lord our God to go and worship the gods of those nations. Make sure there is no root among you that produces such bitter poison.
Among you?
When such a person hears the words of this oath, and they invoke a blessing on themselves, thinking,
I will be safe, even though I persist in going my own way,
they will bring disaster on the watered land as well as the dry. The Lord will never be willing to forgive them. His wrath and zeal will burn against them. All the curses written in this book will fall on them, and the Lord will blot out their names from under heaven. The Lord will single them out from all the tribes of Israel for disaster, according to all the curses of the covenant written in this book of the law. Your children, who follow you in later generations, and foreigners who come from distant lands, will see the calamities that have fallen on the land and the diseases with which the Lord has afflicted it. The whole land will be a burning waste of salt and sulfur, nothing planted, nothing sprouting, no vegetation growing on it. It will be like the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, Admah and Zeboim, which the Lord overthrew in fierce anger. All the nations will ask,
Why has the Lord done this to this land? Why this fierce burning anger?
And the answer will be,
Watch the
It
deal.
is because this people abandoned the covenant of the Lord, the God of their ancestors, the covenant he made with them when he brought them out of Egypt. They went off and worshipped other gods, and bowed down to them, gods they did not know, gods he had not given them. Therefore the Lord's anger burned against this land, so that he brought on it all the curses written in this book. In furious anger and in great wrath the Lord uprooted them from their land and thrust them into another land, as it is now.
Do you smell
the secret
what Barack
things
is cooking?
belong to the Lord our God, but the things revealed belong to us and to our children forever, that we may follow all the words of this law.
Chapter 30.
When all these blessings and curses I have set
Stay away
before
from
you
Saquon.
come on you, and you take them to heart wherever the Lord your God disperses you among the nations, and when you and your children return to the Lord your God and obey him with
I'll post
all
my draft
your heart
list
and with all your soul,
after we
according
do it,
to everything I command you today,
so that way you know which first
then
rounder not to
the Lord
take.
your God will restore your fortunes and have compassion on you, and gather you again from all the nations where he scattered you, even if you have been banished to the most distant land under the heavens. From there, the Lord your God will gather you and bring you back. He will bring you to the land that belonged to your ancestors.
Dude, these
take
completely outlandish
He will
promises,
make you more
like
prosperous and numerous than your ancestors.
If, like, dude, trust,
the Lord your God will circumcise
your
your
life
hearts,
will be
and the
awesome
hearts of your descendants,
if you follow me,
so
the
that
God,
you may
the
love
God of
him
all
with
gods.
all your heart and with all your soul, and live.
Which,
the Lord your God
come on.
will put all these curses on your enemies who hate and persecute you.
It's like,
you will again
if you can
obey
think
the Lord
of something
and follow all his
that
commands
sounds
I am
super
giving
awesome
you
to have
today,
happen,
then
it's like,
the
yeah,
Lord
that'll
your
happen.
God will make you most prosperous in all the work of your hands and in the fruit of your womb, the young of your livestock and the crops of your land.
Like,
the Lord
stuff
will
like
again
this,
delight in you and
what
make
if,
you prosperous.
What if
just
both
as
sides
he delighted in your ancestors.
follow
If you obey
God,
the Lord,
the
your
Lord
God,
of all
and
gods,
keep his commands and decrees
if
that are
both sides
written
of
in
a
this book
dispute
of the law,
believe this,
and
what
turn
happens?
to the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. Now, what I am commanding you today is not too difficult for you or beyond your reach. It is not up in heaven, so that you have to ask,
Who will ascend into heaven to get
really
it,
asking
and
a lot,
proclaim it to
honestly.
us so we may obey it?
Nor is it beyond the sea, so that you have to ask,
Who will cross the sea to get it, and proclaim it to us so we may obey it?
LOL,
No,
I'm American.
the word is very near you. It is in your mouth and in your heart, so you may obey it.
I was a little bit
See,
across the sea.
I set before you today life and prosperity, death and destruction. For I command you today to love the Lord your God, to walk in obedience to him, and to keep his commands, decrees, and laws. Then you will live and increase, and the Lord your God will bless you in the land you are entering to possess. But if your heart turns away and you are not obedient,
Yeah, pretty
and
much.
if you are drawn away to bow down to other gods and worship them, I declare to you this day that you will certainly be destroyed. You will not live long in the land you are crossing the Jordan to enter and possess. This day I call the heavens and the earth as witnesses against you that I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life, so that you and your children may live, and that you may love the Lord your God. Listen to his voice and hold fast to him. For the Lord is your life, and he will give you many years in the land he swore to give to your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Little break. You know what I've realized to this point in the Bible? To this point, we are incel baiting. The only promise for following is that you're gonna have lots of kids. You're literally getting promised sex for following for following this religion. We haven't even said everlasting life or anything yet. Our promise for following him is that your kids will be as numerous as the stars or whatever. So you're promised a lot of sex. That's literally it. So who does this appeal to? We're appealing to incels. Or if you're more of a negative reinforcement kind of guy, every perceivable bad thing possible will happen to you if you don't. So whichever one really gets you going. Either, like, if you do it, lots of sex. If you don't do it, actually every possible bad thing that you can even imagine. Or if you do it, tons and tons of sex, your enemies will fall before you, you'll get lots of land. Sex or every possible bad outcome. Yeah, it's like... Well, geez, I don't want literally every possible bad thing that I've ever seen or could ever imagine, and even a handful of them that I've never imagined before. I don't want that to happen, so I guess, yeah, I mean, the choice here is obvious. Anyways, I'm gonna go to the bathroom. Here's some ads. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Be back shortly. Listen to bop. Kirby 64 music go crazy. Okay. Joshua, it's Moses too.
Chapter 31. Then Moses went out and spoke these words to all Israel.
I am now 120 years old,
Sheesh, man.
and I am no longer able to lead you. The Lord has said
That's
to
the number
me,
from earlier.
You shall not cross the Jordan.
The Lord your God himself will cross over.
Why do we
ahead
feel
of
it necessary to
He will
just
destroy
exaggerate
these
everyone's
nations
age?
before you,
It's
and
so
you
silly.
will take possession of their land. Joshua also will cross over ahead of you, as the Lord said. And the Lord will do to them
Just yet
what
another
he did
hook
to Sihon and Og,
that we're casting
the
out to,
kings
like,
of
well,
the
if you
Amorites,
follow
whom he
this
destroyed
religion,
along with their land. The Lord will deliver them to you, and you must do to them all
get
that
to
I
live
have
for a really
commanded
long
you.
time.
Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of them, for the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you.
Then Moses summoned Joshua and said to him in the presence of all Israel,
Be strong and courageous, for you must go with this people into the land that the Lord swore to their ancestors to give them, and you must divide it among them as their inheritance. The Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged.
So Moses wrote down this law and gave it to the Levitical priests who carried the ark of the covenant of the Lord, and to all the elders of Israel. Then Moses commanded them,
At the end of every 7 years,
The year for
in the year
canceling
for
debts.
canceling debts, during the festival
canceled
of
debt year.
tabernacles, when
That's honestly
all
hilarious.
Israel comes to appear before the Lord your God,
I'm just
at
going
the
to take out a
place
lot
he
of
will
debt
choose,
and then not pay it.
you
It's
shall
so easy.
read this law before
Infinite
them
money hack.
in their hearing. Assemble the people, men, women, and children, and the foreigners residing in your towns, so they can listen and learn to fear the Lord your God, and follow carefully all the words of this law. Their children, who do not know this law, must hear it, and learn to fear the Lord your God, as long as you live in the land you are crossing the Jordan to possess.
The Lord said to Moses,
Now the day of your death is near. Call Joshua and present yourselves at the tent of meeting, where I will commission him.
So Moses and Joshua came and presented
Is that
themselves
the
at the
2008
tent of
stock
meeting.
market crash happened?
Then the Lord appeared at the tent in a pillar of cloud, and the cloud stood over the
sorta.
entrance to the tent. And the Lord said to Moses,
You are going to rest
And thus
with your
Moses said,
ancestors,
There shall be no
and these
subprime
people
loans
will
in
soon
Israel.
prostitute themselves to the foreign gods of the land they are entering. They will forsake me and break the covenant I made with them. And in that day I will become angry with them and forsake them. I will hide my face from them, and they will be destroyed. Many disasters and calamities will come on them, and in that day they will ask, Have not these disasters come on us because our God is not with us? And I will certainly hide my face in that day, because of all their wickedness in turning to other gods. Now write down this song, and teach it to the Israelites, and have them sing it, so that it may be a witness for me against them. When I have brought them into the land flowing with milk and honey, the land I promised on oath to their ancestors, and when they eat their fill and thrive, they will turn to other gods and worship them, rejecting me and breaking my covenant. And when many disasters and calamities come on them, this song will testify against them, because it will not be
We're really covering all of our
by
bases
their
here.
descendants.
Sometime some
I
bad
know
shit's
what
gonna
they are
happen, and it's
disposed
because
to
you guys
do,
fucked up.
even before I bring them into the land I promised them on oath.
So Moses wrote down this song that day and taught it to the Israelites.
Anything that bad
The Lord
happens
gave
is
this
your
command
fault,
to
and anything
Joshua
good
son
that
of Nun.
happens is my
Be
doing.
strong and courageous, for you will bring the Israelites into the land I promised them on oath, and I myself will be with you.
After Moses finished writing in a book the words of this law from beginning to end, he gave this command to the Levites who carried the ark of the covenant of the Lord.
Take this book of the law and place it beside the ark of the covenant of the Lord your God. There it will remain as a witness against you, for I know how rebellious and stiff-necked you are. If you have been rebellious against the Lord while I am still alive and with you, how much more will you rebel after I die?
Can you just let
Assemble
it go?
before me all the elders of your tribes and
Hop
all
off.
your officials, so that I can speak these words in their hearing and call the heavens and the earth to testify against them. For I know that after my death you are sure to become utterly corrupt and to turn from the way I have commanded you. In days to come, disaster will fall on you because you will do evil in the sight of the Lord and arouse his anger by what your hands have made.
And Moses recited the words of this song from beginning to end in the hearing of the whole assembly of Israel.
And then he played Freebird.
Chapter 32.
Listen, you heavens, and I will speak. Hear, you earth, the words of my mouth. Let my teaching fall like rain, and my words descend like dew, like showers on new grass, like abundant rain on tender plants. I will proclaim the name of the Lord. Oh, praise the greatness of our God. He is the rock. His works are perfect, and all his ways are just. A faithful God who does no wrong. Upright and just is he. They are corrupt and not his children. To their shame they are a warped and crooked generation. Is this the way you repay the Lord, you foolish and unwise people? Is he not your Father, your Creator, who made you and formed you? Remember the days of old. Consider the generations long past. Ask your father, and he will tell you, your elders, and they will explain to you. When the Most High gave the nations their inheritance, when he divided all mankind, he set up boundaries for the peoples, according to the number of the sons of Israel. For the Lord's portion is his people, Jacob his allotted inheritance. In a desert land he found him, in a barren and howling waste. He shielded him and cared for him.
Yeah, this reminds me of...
Regarded him as the apple of his eye.
Do you think that Proverbs
like
would be worth sitting through?
Up its nest and hovers over its young. That
or do we think we should pass on that one also?
Catch them and carries them aloft. The Lord alone led him. No foreign god was with him. He made him ride on the heights of the land, and fed him with the fruit of the fields. He nourished him with honey from the rock, and with oil from the flinty crag, with curds and milk from herd and flock, and with fattened lambs and goats, with choice rams of Bashan and the finest kernels of wheat. You drank the foaming blood of the grape. Jeshurun grew fat and kicked. Filled with food, they became heavy and sleek. They abandoned the God who made them, and rejected the rock, their Savior. They made him jealous with their foreign gods, and angered him with their detestable idols. They sacrificed to false gods, which are
this
not
is a long one.
Gods they had not known.
I don't think I'm going to be able to remember this one, Moses.
Appeared. Gods your ancestors did not fear.
This is literally his dying words.
You deserted the rock who fathered you. You forgot the God who gave you birth. The Lord saw this and rejected them, because he was angered by his sons and daughters. I will hide my face from them, he said, and see what their end will be, for they are a perverse generation, children who are unfaithful. They made me jealous by what is no God, and angered me with their worthless idols. I will make them envious by those who are not a people. I will make them angry by a nation that has no understanding. For a fire will be kindled by my wrath.
Actually, one time, and he is still pissed.
The dead below.
He is
it
so
will
salty.
Devour the earth and its harvests, and set afire the foundations of the mountains. I will heap calamities on them and spend my arrows against them. I will send wasting famine against them, consuming pestilence and deadly plague. I will send against them the fangs of wild beasts, the venom of vipers.
Didn't even make the idol. Yeah, we threw in our stuff and it came out, man. Like, what do you want?
In their homes, terror will reign. The young men and young women will perish, the infants and those with gray hair. I said I would scatter them and erase their name from human memory, but I dreaded the taunt of the enemy, lest the adversary misunderstand and say, "Our hand has triumphed. The Lord has not done all this." They are a nation without sense. There is no discernment in them.
Dude,
if only they were wise
don't come to the tabernacle on Monday, Jesus Christ.
And discern what their end will be. How could one man chase 1,000, or two put 10,000 to flight, unless their rock had sold them, unless the Lord had given them up? For their rock is not like our rock, as even our enemies concede. Their vine comes from the vine of Sodom, and from the fields of Gomorrah. Their grapes are filled with poison, and their clusters with bitterness. Their wine is the venom of serpents, the deadly poison of cobras. Have I not kept this in reserve and sealed it in my vaults? It is mine to avenge. I will repay. In due time their foot will slip. Their day of disaster is near, and their doom rushes upon them. The Lord will
vindicate part about all of this
his
is that the
people
scholars aren't
and
even certain that
relent
Moses
concerning
existed.
his servants when he sees their strength is gone and no one is left, slave
I mean, it's like
or free. He will say, "Now
I view Moses as
the rock they took
as the
refuge
author
in,
insert.
The gods who ate
It's the
fat
self-insert
of their
character.
sacrifices and drank the wine of their drink offerings."
Some guy just lying about how awesome
you.
and epic he
Let
was,
them
and he
give
totally
you
led all of
shelter.
these people and spoke to God all the time and was
There is
God's
no
favorite
God
little boy.
besides me. I put to death and I bring to life. I have wounded and I will heal, and no one can deliver out of my hand. I lift my hand to heaven and solemnly swear, as surely as I live forever, when I sharpen my flashing sword, and my hand grasps it in judgment, I will take vengeance on my adversaries, and repay those who hate me. I will make my arrows drunk with blood, while my sword devours flesh, the blood of the slain and the captives, the heads of the enemy leaders. Rejoice, you nations, with his people, for he will avenge the blood of his servants. He will take vengeance on his enemies and make atonement for his land and people.
Yeah,
Moses came with Joshua, son of Nun,
congratulations,
and spoke all the
slash
words
I'm
of this
sorry that
song in the
happened.
hearing of the people.
I don't know, Moses.
When Moses finished reciting all these words to all Israel, he said to them,
Take to heart all the words I have solemnly declared to you this day, so that you may command your children to obey carefully all the words of this law. They are not just idle words for you. They are your life. By them you will live long in the land you are crossing the Jordan to possess.
On that same day the Lord told Moses,
Go up into the Abarim range to Mount Nebo in Moab, across from Jericho, and view Canaan, the land I am giving the Israelites as their own possession. There on the mountain that you have climbed, you will die and be gathered to your people, just as your brother Aaron died on Mount Hor and was gathered to his people. This is because both
the
of
thing
you
is, it has to be a
broke
complete
faith with
work.
me in the presence
So you have to
of
hook
the
people
Israelites
to
at the
follow it, and
waters
then you
of
also have to tell them.
Meribah-Kadesh
You have to
in
give
the
them
desert
a list of
Zin,
instructions
and
as
because
to what
you
they're
did
meant to
not
do.
uphold my holiness among the
Give them a bunch of malarkey that they have to carry
Therefore,
out, so that
you
way
will see
it
the
feels
land
legitimate or
only
whatever.
From a distance. You will not enter the land I am giving to the people of Israel.
Chapter 33. This is the blessing that Moses, the man of God, pronounced on the Israelites before his death.
We're almost done.
He said,
The Lord came from Sinai and dawned over them from Seir. He shone forth from Mount Paran. He came with myriads of holy ones from the south, from his mountain slopes. Surely it is you who love the people. All the holy ones are in your hand. At your feet they all bow down. and from you receive instruction, the law that Moses gave us, the possession of the assembly of Jacob. He was king over Jeshurun when the leaders of the people assembled, along with the tribes of Israel. Let Reuben live and not die, nor his people be few.
And this he said about Judah.
Hear, Lord, the cry of Judah.
The next book is going to
Bring
fucking suck,
him to his
as
people.
opposed to the ones that we've been reading.
With his own hands he defends his cause. Oh, be his help against his foes.
About Levi he said,
Your Thummim and Urim belong to your faithful servant. You tested him at Massah. You contended with him at the waters of Meribah. He said of his father and mother, I have no regard for them. He did not recognize his brothers or acknowledge his own children, but he watched over your word and guarded your covenant. He teaches your precepts to Jacob and your law to Israel. He offers incense before you and whole burnt offerings on your altar. Bless all his skills, Lord, and be pleased with the work of his hands. Strike down those who rise against him, his foes, till they rise no more.
About Benjamin he said,
Let the beloved of the Lord rest secure in him, for he shields him all day long, and the one the Lord loves rests between his shoulders.
About Joseph he said,
May the Lord bless his land with the precious dew from heaven above.
Can you wrap it up
with
and
the
die
deep
already?
Waters that lie below.
This is his
With
deathbed
the best
anime
the
speech.
sun brings forth, and the finest the moon can yield, with the choicest gifts of the ancient mountains and the fruitfulness of the everlasting hills, with the best gifts of the earth and its fullness, and the favor of him who dwelt in the burning bush. Let all these rest on the head of Joseph, on the brow of the prince among his brothers. In majesty he is like a firstborn bull. His horns are the horns of a wild ox. With them he will gore the nations, even those at the ends of the earth. Such are the 10,000s of Ephraim.
Big boss
Such are
talking
the
to
thousands of
GS4.
Manasseh.
About Zebulun
Like we're
Rejoice,
saying in
Zebulun,
50
your
words.
going out, and you Issachar in your tents. They will summon peoples to the mountain, and there offer the
like we're
sacrifices
speaking
of
to
the righteous.
these children like
They
they're
will feast on the
children
abundance
of
the
Israel,
seas,
like they're
on the treasures hidden in the sand.
About Gad he said,
Blessed is he who
like
enlarges
they're
Gad's
like
domain.
we're politicians. We're saying
Gad
nothing in
lives
a lot
there
of
like
words.
a lion, tearing at arm or head. He chose the best land for himself. The leader's portion was kept for him. When the heads of the people assembled, he carried out the Lord's righteous will and his judgments concerning Israel.
About Dan he said,
Dan is a lion's cub springing out of Bashan.
About Naphtali he said,
Naphtali is abounding with the favor of the Lord and is
getting
full
the
of his
words from
blessing.
Dan
He
compared
will
to
inherit
Joseph
southward
or
to the
Levi.
lake.
About Asher he said,
Most blessed of sons is Asher. Let him be favored
Dan
by
got
his
shafted.
brothers, and let him bathe his feet in oil.
And Dan is
the
pretty
bolts
cool
of your
too.
gates will be iron and bronze, and your strength will equal your days. There is no one like the God of Jeshurun, who rides across the heavens to help you, and on the clouds in his majesty. The eternal God is your refuge, and underneath are the everlasting arms. He will drive out your enemies before you, saying, Destroy them. So Israel will live in safety. Jacob will dwell secure in a land of grain and new wine, where the heavens dropped you. Blessed are you, Israel. Who is like you, a people saved by the Lord? He is your shield and helper, and your glorious sword. Your enemies will cower before you, and you will tread on their heights.
Chapter 34. Then Moses climbed Mount Nebo from the plains of Moab to the
And
top
then he
of
died.
Pisgah, across from Jericho. There the Lord showed him the whole land, from Gilead to Dan, all of Naphtali, the territory of Ephraim and Manasseh, all the land of Judah as far as the Mediterranean Sea, the Negev, and the whole region from the valley of Jericho, the city of palms, as far as Zoar. Then the Lord said to him,
This is the land I promised on oath to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, when I said, I will give it to your descendants. I have let you see it.
Why do we call him
with your
Abraham,
eyes,
but we call
but
Jacob
you will
Jacob
not
instead of
cross
Israel?
over into it.
And Moses, the servant of the Lord, died
We
there
dead
in
name one of
Moab,
them, but
as
not the
Lord had
other.
said. He buried him in Moab, in the valley opposite Beth Peor. but to this day no one knows where his grave is. Moses was 120 years old when he died, yet his eyes were not weak, nor his strength gone. The Israelites grieved for
It's
Moses
a mystery.
in the plains of Moab 30 days, until the time of weeping and mourning was over. Now Joshua son of Nun was filled with the spirit of wisdom, because Moses had laid his hands on him. So the Israelites listened to him, and did what the Lord had commanded.
But trust
Moses.
me, he really existed.
Since then, no prophet
was
has
so
risen
awesome
in Israel
too.
like Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face, who did all those signs and wonders the Lord sent him to do in Egypt, to Pharaoh, and to all his officials, and to his whole land.
And
For
he
no
totally
one has
talked
ever
with the
shown
Lord
mighty
face to face
power
all the
or
time.
performed the awesome deeds that Moses did in the sight of all Israel.
Joshua, 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 Joshua.
Joshua, chapter 1. After the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord said to Joshua son of Nun, Moses' aide,
Moses, my servant, is dead. Now then, you and all these people, get ready to cross the Jordan River into the land I am about to give to them, to the Israelites. I will give you every place where you set your foot, as I promised Moses. Your territory will extend from the desert to Lebanon, and from the great river the Euphrates, all the Hittite country, to the Mediterranean Sea in the west. No one will be able to stand against you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will never leave you nor forsake you.
He says, "All right, yeah, you're
Be
like the next.
strong and
You're next."
Because you will lead these people to inherit the land I swore
On to the next
to their
one.
ancestors to give them. Be strong and very courageous. Be careful to obey all the law my servant Moses gave you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left, that you may be successful wherever you go. Keep this book of the law always on your lips. Meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you will be prosperous and successful. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go.
So Joshua ordered the officers of the people,
Go through the camp and tell the people, get your provisions ready.
I am
3
the
days
captain
from
now.
You will cross the Jordan here to go in and take possession of the land the Lord your God is giving you for your own.
But to the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh, Joshua said,
Remember the command that Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave you after he said, The Lord your God
It's crazy
will
that
give
when
you
one
rest
mouthpiece
by giving you
dies,
this
the next
land.
one is just
Your
immediately
wives,
available to
your
take the
children,
place.
and your livestock may stay in the land that Moses gave you east of the Jordan. But all your fighting men, ready for battle, must cross over ahead of your fellow Israelites. You are
Moses
to help
definitely
them
goes to hell, by the
until
way.
the Lord gives them rest.
Killed
as
so many
he
people.
has done for you. And until they too have taken possession of the land the Lord your God is giving them. After that, you may go back and occupy your own land, which Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave you east of the Jordan toward the sunrise.
Then they answered Joshua,
Whatever you have commanded us, we will do, and wherever you send us, we will go. Just as we fully obeyed Moses, so we will obey you. Only
it's that
may
easy?
the Lord your
They
God
mention
be
hell?
with
No.
you, as he was with Moses. Whoever rebels against your word and does not obey it, whatever you may command them, will be put to death. Only be strong and courageous.
Chapter 2. Then Joshua son of Nun secretly sent 2 spies from Shittim.
Go,
Shittim.
look over the land,
he said.
especially Jericho.
So they went and entered the house of a
I
prostitute
think
named
they
Rahab,
they
and
have
stayed
mentioned
there.
angels
The king
a
of
couple
Jericho
of occasions.
was told,
Look, some of the Israelites have come here tonight to spy out the land.
But they didn't really
so
describe
the
what
king of
angels
Jericho
are.
sent this message to Rahab.
Bring out the men who came
They
to
were just
you
like
and entered
God's
your house,
homies. They
because
weren't
had come to
necessarily from
spy out the whole
another
land.
world or
But
whatever.
the woman had taken the 2 men and hidden them. She said,
Yes, the men came to me, but I did not know where they had come from. At dusk, when
Angels
it
are
was
God's
time to close the
messengers?
city gate,
Well,
they left.
Moses is also
I don't
God's
know which way they
messenger.
went.
Does that make
Go
Moses
after
an angel?
them quickly. You may catch up with them.
But she had taken them up to the roof and hidden them under the stalks of flax she had laid out on the roof. So the men set out in pursuit of the spies on the road that leads to the fords of the Jordan. And as soon as the pursuers had gone out, the gate was shut. Before the spies lay down for the night, she went up on the roof and said to them,
I know that the Lord has given you this land, and that a great fear of you has fallen on us, so that all who live in this country are melting in fear because of you. We have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea for you when you came out of Egypt, and what you did to Sihon and Og, the 2 kings of the Amorites east of the Jordan, whom you completely destroyed. When we heard of it, our hearts melted in fear, and everyone's courage failed because of you. For the Lord your God is God in heaven above and on the earth below. Now then, please swear to me by the Lord that you will show kindness to my family, because I have shown kindness to you. Give me a sure sign that you will spare the lives of my father and mother, my brothers and sisters, and all who belong to them, and that you will save us from death.
Our lives for your lives,
the men assured her.
If you don't tell what we are doing, we will treat you kindly and faithfully when the Lord gives us the land.
So she let them down by a rope through the window, for the house she lived in was part of the city wall. She said to them,
Go to the hills, so the pursuers will not find you. Hide yourselves there 3 days until they return, and then go on your way.
Now the men had said to her,
This oath you made us swear will not be binding on us unless, when we enter the land, you have tied this scarlet cord in the window through which you let us down, and unless you have brought your father and mother, your brothers, and all your family into your house. If any of them go outside your house into the street, their blood will be on their own heads. We will not be responsible. As for those who are in the house with you, their blood will be on our head if a hand is laid on them. But if you tell what we are doing, we will be released from the oath you made us swear.
Agreed,
she replied.
Let it be as you say.
Bet.
So she sent them away, and they departed, and she tied the scarlet cord in the window. When they left, they went into the hills and stayed there 3 days, until the pursuers had searched all along the road and returned without finding them. Then the 2 men started back. They went down out of the hills, forded the river, and came to Joshua son of Nun, and told him everything that had happened to them. They said to Joshua,
The Lord has surely given the whole land into our hands. All the people are melting in fear because of us.
Chapter 3. Early in the morning, Joshua and all the Israelites set out from Shittim and went to the Jordan, where they camped before crossing over. After 3 days, the officers went throughout the camp, giving orders to the people.
When you see the ark of the covenant of the Lord your God, and the Levitical priests carrying it, you are to move out from your positions and follow it. Then you will know which way to go, since you have never been this way before. But keep a distance of about 2,000 cubits between you and the ark. Do not go near it.
Joshua told the people,
Consecrate yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do amazing things among you.
Joshua said to the priests,
Among you?
Take up the ark of the covenant and pass on ahead of the people.
So they took it up and went ahead of them. And the Lord said to Joshua,
Today I will begin to exalt you in the eyes of all Israel, so they may know that I am with you, as I was with Moses. Tell the priests who carry the ark of the covenant, when you reach the edge of the Jordan's waters, go and stand in the river.
Joshua said to the Israelites,
Come here and listen to the words of the Lord your God. This is how you will know that the living God is among you, and that he will certainly drive out before you the Canaanites, Hittites, Hivites, Perizzites, Girgashites, Amorites, and Jebusites. See, the ark of the covenant of the Lord of all the earth will go into the Jordan ahead of you. Now then, choose 12 men from the tribes of Israel, 1 from each tribe, and as soon as the priests who carry the ark of the Lord of all the earth, set foot in the Jordan, its waters flowing downstream will be cut off and stand up in a heap.
So when the people broke camp to cross the Jordan,
this trick again,
the priests carrying the ark of the covenant went ahead of them. Now the Jordan is at flood stage all during harvest. Yet as soon as the priests who carried the ark reached the Jordan and their feet touched the water's edge, the water from upstream stopped flowing. It piled up in a heap a great distance away, at a town called Adam in the vicinity of Zarethan, while the water flowing down to the Sea of the Arabah, that is, the Dead Sea, was completely cut off. So the people crossed over opposite Jericho. The priests who carried the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord stopped in the middle of the Jordan and stood on dry ground, while all Israel passed by until the whole nation had completed the crossing on dry ground.
The whole nation.
Chapter 4. When the whole nation had finished crossing the Jordan, the Lord said to Joshua,
It's crazy that we
12 men from among
that we
the
have
people,
hundreds of thousands
one
of
from
people all
each
traveling
tribe,
together.
and tell them to take up 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan, from right where the priests are standing, and carry them over with you, and put them down at the place where you stay tonight.
So Joshua called together the 12 men he had appointed from the Israelites, one from each tribe, and said to them,
Go over before the ark of the Lord your God into the middle of the Jordan. Each of you is to take up a stone on his shoulder according to the number of the tribes of the Israelites, to serve as a sign among you. In the future, when your children ask you, what do these stones mean? Tell them that the flow of the Jordan was cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord. When it crossed the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan were cut off. These stones are to be a memorial to the people of Israel forever.
So the Israelites did as Joshua commanded them. They took 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan, according to the number of the tribes of the Israelites, as the Lord had told Joshua, and they carried them over with them to their camp, where they put them down. Joshua set up the 12 stones that had been in the middle of the Jordan at the spot where the priests who carried the Ark of the Covenant had stood, and they are there to this day. Now the priests who carried the ark remained standing in the middle of the Jordan until everything the Lord had commanded Joshua was done by the people, just as Moses had directed Joshua. The people hurried over, and as soon as all of them had crossed, the ark of the Lord and the priests came to the other side while the people watched. The men of Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh crossed over ready for battle in front of the Israelites, as Moses had directed them. About 40,000 armed for battle crossed over before the Lord to the plains of Jericho for war. That day the Lord exalted Joshua in the sight of all Israel, and they stood in awe of him all the days of his life, just as they had stood in awe of Moses. Then the Lord said to Joshua,
Command the priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant law to come up out of the Jordan.
So Joshua commanded the priests,
Come up out of the Jordan.
And the priests came up out of the river carrying the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord. No sooner had they set their feet on the dry ground than the waters of the Jordan returned to their place and ran in flood stage as before. On the 10th day of the first month, the people went up from the Jordan and camped at Gilgal on the eastern border of Jericho. And Joshua set up at Gilgal the 12 stones they had taken out of the Jordan. He said to the Israelites,
In the future, when your descendants ask their parents, What do these stones mean? Tell them, Israel crossed the Jordan on dry ground. For the Lord your God dried up the Jordan before you until you had crossed over. The Lord your God did to the Jordan what he had done to the Red Sea when he dried it up before us until we had crossed over. He did this so that all the peoples of the earth might know that the hand of the Lord is powerful, and so that you might always fear the Lord your God.
Chapter 5. Now when all the Amorite kings west of the Jordan, and all the Canaanite kings along the coast, heard how the Lord had dried up the Jordan before the Israelites until they had crossed over, their hearts melted in fear, and they no longer had the courage to face the Israelites. At that time the Lord said to Joshua,
Make flint knives and circumcise the Israelites again.
So Joshua made flint knives.
I don't got any more to offer, man. What do you mean?
Now this is why he did so. All those who came out of Egypt, all the men of military age, died in the wilderness on the way after leaving Egypt. All the people that came out had been circumcised, but all the people born in the wilderness during the journey from Egypt had not. The Israelites had moved about in the wilderness 40 years.
All the men of military age
died when they left Egypt had died, since they had not obeyed the Lord. For the Lord had sworn to them that they would not see the land he had solemnly promised their ancestors to give us, a land flowing with milk and honey. So he raised up their sons in their place, and these were the ones Joshua circumcised. They were still
the good
uncircumcised
generation,
because they had not been circumcised on the way. And after the whole nation had been circumcised, They remained where they were in camp until they were healed. Then the Lord said to Joshua,
Today I have rolled away the reproach
Did
of
Joshua do it
Egypt from
personally?
you.
So the place has been called Gilgal to this day. On the evening of the 14th day of the month, while camped at Gilgal on the plains of Jericho, the Israelites celebrated the Passover. The day after the Passover, that very day, they ate some of the produce of the land, unleavened bread and roasted grain. The manna stopped the day after they ate this food from the land. There was no longer any manna for the Israelites, but that year they ate the produce of Canaan. Now when Joshua was near Jericho, he looked up and saw a man standing in front of him with a drawn sword in his hand. Joshua went up to him and asked,
Are you for us or for our enemies?
Neither,
he replied.
But as commander of the army of the Lord, I have now come.
Then Joshua fell face down to the ground in reverence and asked him,
What message does my Lord have for his servant?
The commander of the Lord's army replied,
Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy.
And Joshua did so. Chapter 6. Now the gates of Jericho were securely barred because of the Israelites. No one went out, and no one came
we're like
in. Then the Lord said to Joshua,
like a crazy army.
See, I have delivered Jericho into your hands, along with its king and its fighting men. March around the city once with all the armed men. Do this for 6 days. Have 7 priests carry trumpets of ram's horns in front of the ark.
Dude,
On
this
the
is like,
7th
we're
day,
just flexing
march
our
around
army.
the city 7 times, with the priests blowing the trumpets. When you hear them sound a long blast on the trumpets, have the whole army give a loud shout. Then the wall of the city will collapse, and the army will go up, everyone straight in.
And then
So Joshua son of Nun called the priests and said to them,
Take up the ark of the covenant of the Lord, and have 7 priests carry trumpets in front of it.
And he ordered the army,
Advance! March around
what
the
did
city
Jericho
with
even
an
do
armed
wrong?
guard going ahead of the ark of the Lord.
When Joshua had spoken to the
Have
people,
they done anything to deserve
the 7
this?
priests carrying the 7 trumpets before the Lord went forward, blowing their trumpets.
Or
and the
are
ark
they
of the
just the
Lord's
victim of
covenant followed them.
circumstance?
The armed guard marched ahead of the priests who blew the trumpets, and the rear guard followed the ark. All this time the trumpets were sounding. But Joshua had commanded the army,
Do not give a war cry, do not raise your voices, do not say a word until the day I tell you to shout. Then shout!
So we had the ark of the Lord carried around the city, circling it once. Then the army returned to camp and spent the night there. Joshua got up early the next morning, and the priests took up the ark of the Lord. The 7 priests carrying the 7 trumpets went forward, marching before the ark of the Lord and blowing the trumpets. The armed men went ahead of them, and the rear guard followed the ark of the Lord, while the trumpets kept sounding. So on the 2nd day they marched around the city once and returned to the camp. They did this for 6 days. On the 7th day they got up at daybreak and marched around the city 7 times in the same manner, except that on that day they circled the city 7 times. The 7th time around, when the priests sounded the trumpet blast, Joshua commanded the army,
Shout! For the Lord has given you the city. The city and all that is in it are to be
This seems
devoted
kind
to
of
the
silly.
Lord. Only Rahab the prostitute and all who are with her in her house shall be spared, because she hid the spies we sent. But keep away from the devoted things, so that you will not bring about your own destruction by taking any of them. Otherwise, you will make the camp of Israel liable to destruction and bring trouble on it. All the silver and gold and the articles of bronze and iron are sacred to the Lord and must go into his treasury.
When the
The
trumpet
treasury
sounded,
of the
the
Lord?
army shouted,
What?
And at the sound of the trumpet, when the men gave a loud shout, the wall collapsed. So everyone charged straight in, and they took the city. They devoted the city to the Lord, and destroyed with the sword every living thing in it, men and women, young and old, cattle, sheep, and donkeys. Joshua said to the 2 men who had spied out the land,
Go into the prostitute's house and bring her out and all who belong to her, in accordance with your oath to her.
So the young men who had done the spying went in and brought out Rahab, her father and mother, her brothers and sisters, and all who belonged to her. They brought out her entire family and put them in a place outside the camp of Israel. Then they burned the whole city and everything in it, but they put the silver and gold and the articles of bronze and iron into the treasury of the Lord's house. But Joshua spared Rahab the prostitute,
The
with her
treasury
family
of the
and all
Lord's
who belonged
house.
to her, because she hid the men Joshua had sent as spies to Jericho.
Me, as
She
the high
lives among the
priest, I say,
Israelites to
no,
this
you
day.
must give this to God.
At that time, Joshua pronounced this solemn
Actually
oath.
pockets it
Cursed
like a
before
boss.
the Lord is the one who undertakes to rebuild this city, Jericho. At the cost of his firstborn son, he will lay its foundations. At the cost of his youngest, he will set up its gates.
So the Lord was with Joshua, and his fame spread throughout the land.
Did VeggieTales mention
Chapter
Rahab's
7.
profession?
But the
Good
Israelites
question.
were unfaithful in regard to the devoted things. Achan, son of Carmi, the son of Zimri, the son of Zerah, of the tribe of Judah, took some of them. So the Lord's anger burned against Israel.
Why did they burn
Now
the city down
Joshua sent
again?
men from Jericho to Ai,
We
which
mentioned
is
that
near Beth-aven,
that's
to
what
the
we were
east
meant
of
to do
Bethel, and told them,
Go up and spy out
before,
the
right?
region.
If,
So the men went up and
we
spied
conquer
out
an
Ai.
unholy city, we're
When they
meant
returned to Joshua, they said,
we're meant to
Not
burn
all
it.
the army will have to go up against Ai. Send 2,000 or 3,000 men to take it, and do not weary the whole army, for only a few people live there.
So about 3,000 went up, but they were routed by the men of Ai, who killed about 36 of them. They chased the Israelites from the city gate as far as the stone quarries, and struck them down on the slopes. At this the hearts of the people melted in fear and became like water. Then Joshua tore his clothes and fell face down to the ground before the ark of the Lord, remaining there till evening. The elders of Israel did the same, and sprinkled dust on their heads. And Joshua said,
Alas, sovereign Lord, why did you ever bring this people across the Jordan to deliver us into the hands of the Amorites to destroy us? If only we had been content to stay on the other side of the Jordan. Pardon your servant, Lord. What can I say, now that Israel has been routed by its enemies? The Canaanites and the other people of the country will hear about this, and they will surround us and wipe out our name from the earth. What then will you do for your own great name?
The Lord said to Joshua,
Stand up. What are you doing down on your face? Israel has sinned. They have violated my covenant, which I commanded them to keep. They have taken some of the devoted things. They have stolen. They have lied.
Man,
They
we have
put
hundreds
them
of
with
thousands
their
of
own
homies.
possessions.
Like, you really
That
expect
is
everyone
why the
to
Israelites cannot
obey
stand against their
100%?
enemies. They turn their backs and run because they have been made liable to destruction. I will not be with you anymore unless you destroy whatever among you is devoted to destruction. Go, consecrate the people. Tell them, consecrate yourselves in preparation for tomorrow. For
Now we have to
this
kill the
is
people
what the
who
Lord,
took
the God
took
of Israel,
material
says.
wealth for
There
themselves
are
instead of
devoted
giving it to the
things among
church.
you, Israel. You cannot stand against your enemies until you remove them.
That's
In
such
the
a
morning,
wonderful stipulation.
present yourselves
After we
tribe
do all this
by
conquering,
tribe.
you have to give
The
all
tribe
the
the Lord
valuables to the
chooses
church.
Shall come forward, clan by clan. The clan the Lord chooses shall come forward, family by family. And the family the Lord chooses shall come forward, man by man. Whoever is caught with the devoted things shall be destroyed by fire, along with all that belongs to him. He has violated the covenant of the Lord and has done an outrageous thing in Israel.
Early the next morning, Joshua had Israel come forward by tribes, and Judah was chosen. The clans of Judah came forward, and the Zerahites were chosen. He had the clan of the Zerahites come forward by families, and Zimri was chosen. Joshua had his family come forward man by man, and Achan, son of Carmi, the son of Zimri, the son of Zerah, of the tribe of Judah, was chosen. Then Joshua said to Achan,
My son, give glory to the Lord, the God of Israel, and honor him. Tell me what you have done. Do not hide it from me.
Achan replied,
It is true. I have sinned against the Lord, the God of Israel. This is what I have done. When I saw in the plunder a beautiful robe from Babylonia, 200 shekels of silver, and a bar of gold weighing 50 shekels, I coveted them and took them. They are hidden in the ground inside my tent with the silver underneath.
So Joshua sent messengers, and they ran to the tent, and there it was, hidden in his tent, with the silver underneath. They took the things from the tent, brought them to Joshua and all the Israelites, and spread them out before the Lord. Then Joshua, together with all Israel, took Achan son of Zerah, the silver, the robe, the gold bar, his sons and daughters, his cattle, donkeys, and sheep, his tent, and all that he had, to the valley of Achor. Joshua said,
"Why have you brought this trouble on us? The Lord
why
will
admit?
bring
Just
trouble
lie.
on you today."
Then all Israel stoned him, and after they had stoned the rest, they burned them. Over Achan they heaped up a large pile of rocks, which remains to this day. Then the Lord turned from his fierce anger. Therefore that place has been called the Valley of Achor ever since.
And then we brutally murdered him.
Then the
gang
Lord said
style.
to Joshua,
Do not be afraid.
Fuck that guy.
Do not be discouraged. Take the whole army with you, and go up and attack Ai. For I have delivered
Even the
into
rest of the
your
family.
hands the king of Ai, his people, his city, and his land. You shall do to Ai and its king as you did to Jericho and its king, except that you may carry off their plunder and livestock for yourselves. Set an ambush behind the city.
So Joshua and the whole army moved out to attack Ai. He chose 30,000 of his best fighting men and sent them out at night with these orders.
Listen carefully. You are to set an ambush behind
we
the
get to
city.
loot this one.
Don't go very far from it. All of you be on the alert.
Why?
I and all those with
I don't
me will
know.
advance on the city. And when the men come out against us, as they did before, we will flee from them. They will pursue us until we have lured them away from the city, for they will say, "They are running away from us as they did before." So when we flee from them, you are to rise up from ambush and take the city. The Lord your God will give it into your hand. When you have taken the city, set it on fire. Do what the Lord has commanded. See to it. You have my orders.
Then Joshua sent them off, and they went to the place of ambush and lay in wait between Bethel and Ai, to the west of Ai. But Joshua spent that night with the people.
We just
Early
killed
the
people
next
for
morning,
taking gold,
Joshua
and now
mustered his
that
army,
their dad says
and
you can
he
take.
and the leaders of
God says you
Israel
can
marched
take the
before
stuff.
them to Ai.
Well, he told you
The
not
entire
to in that
force
one.
that was with him marched up
So
and
just
approached the
listen
city
to what he
and
says.
arrived in front of it. They set up camp north of Ai, with the valley between them and the city. Joshua had taken about 5,000 men and set them in ambush between Bethel and Ai, to the west of the city. So the
5,000.
soldiers took up their positions, with the main camp to the north of the city, and the ambush to the west of it. That night Joshua went into the valley. When the king of Ai saw this, he and all the men of the city hurried out early in the morning to meet Israel in battle at a certain place overlooking the Arabah. But he did not know that an ambush had been set against him behind the city. Joshua and all Israel let themselves be driven back before them, and they fled toward the wilderness. All the men of Ai were called to pursue them, and they pursued Joshua and were lured away from the city. Not a man remained in Ai or Bethel who did not go after Israel. They left the city open and went in pursuit of Israel. Then the Lord said to Joshua,
Hold out toward Ai the javelin
The Bible as a
that is in
tactical
your
war
hand.
text.
For into your hand I will deliver the city.
So Joshua held out toward the city the javelin that was in his hand. As soon as he did this, the men in the ambush rose quickly from their position and rushed forward. They entered the city and captured it, and quickly set it on fire.
What the man?
The men of Ai looked back and
Just
saw the
lighting
smoke
everything
of
on
the city
fire.
rising up into the sky, but they had no chance to escape in any direction. The Israelites who had been fleeing toward the wilderness had turned back against their pursuers. For when Joshua and all Israel saw that the ambush had taken the city, and that smoke was going up from it, they turned around and attacked the men of Ai. Those in the ambush also came out of the city against them, so that they were caught in the middle, with Israelites on both sides. Israel cut them down, leaving them neither survivors nor fugitives. But they took the king of Ai alive and brought him to Joshua. When Israel had finished killing all the men of Ai in the fields and in the wilderness where they had chased them, and when every one of them had been put to the sword, all the Israelites returned to Ai and killed those who were in it. 12,000 men and women fell that day, all the people of Ai. For Joshua did not draw back
Then we
the hand
killed
that held out his
everyone in
javelin
the city.
until he had destroyed
Also,
all who lived in Ai. But Israel
women
did
included.
carry off for themselves the livestock and plunder of this city, as the Lord had instructed Joshua. So Joshua burned Ai and made it a permanent heap of ruins, a desolate place to this day. He impaled the body of the king of Ai on a pole and left it there until evening. At sunset, Joshua ordered them to take the body from the pole and throw it down at the entrance of the city gate. And they raised a large pile of rocks over it, which remains to this day. Then Joshua built on Mount Ebal an altar to the Lord, the God of Israel, as Moses, the servant of the Lord, had commanded the Israelites. He built it according to what is written in the book of the law of Moses, an altar of uncut stones, on which no iron tool had been used. On it they offered to the Lord burnt offerings and sacrificed fellowship offerings. There, in the presence of the Israelites, Joshua wrote on stones a copy of the law of Moses. All the Israelites, with their elders, officials, and judges, were standing on both sides of the ark of the covenant of the Lord, facing the Levitical priests who carried it. Both the foreigners living among them and the native-born were there. Half of the people stood in front of Mount Gerizim, and half of them in front of Mount Ebal, as Moses, the servant of the Lord, had formerly commanded when he gave instructions to bless the people of Israel. Afterward, Joshua read all the words of the law, the blessings and the curses, just as it is written in the book of the law. There was not a word of all that Moses had commanded that Joshua did not read to the whole assembly of Israel, including the women and children, and the foreigners who lived among them.
Including the women and children. Yo, can you, repeat it? Please,
Chapter
I forgot
9.
what Moses said.
Now when all the kings west of the Jordan heard about these
Can you just
things,
repeat the whole thing,
the kings in the hill
please?
country, in the western foothills, and along the entire coast of the Mediterranean Sea as far as Lebanon, the kings of the Hittites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites,
Is it so repetitive
Hivites,
because
and Jebusites,
these would have been
they came together to
distributed
wage war
or
against
recited
Joshua
as
and Israel.
independent works and
However,
not put into
when
a
the people
collection?
of Gibeon heard what Joshua had done to Jericho and Ai,
like it is
they
now.
resorted to a ruse. They went as a delegation
Is that
whose
the
donkeys
rationale?
were loaded with worn-out sacks and old wineskins, cracked and mended. They put worn and patched sandals on their feet and wore old clothes. All the bread of their food supply was dry and moldy. Then they went to Joshua in the camp at Gilgal and said to him and the Israelites,
"We have come from a distant country. Make a treaty with us."
The Israelites said to the Hivites,
"But perhaps you live near us, so how can we make a treaty with you?"
"We are your servants,"
they said to Joshua. But Joshua asked,
"Who are you, and where do you come from?"
They answered,
"Your servants have come from a very distant country, because of the fame of the Lord your God. For we have heard reports of him, all that he did in Egypt, and all that he did to the 2 kings of the Amorites east of the Jordan, Sihon king of Heshbon and Og king of Bashan, who reigned in Ashtaroth. And our elders and all those living in our country said to us, 'Take provisions for your journey, go and meet them and say to them, we are your servants. Make a treaty with us. This bread of ours was warm when we packed it at home on the day we left to come to you. But now see how dry and moldy it is. And these wineskins that we filled were new, but see how cracked they are. And our clothes and sandals are worn out by the very long journey.'"
The Israelites sampled their provisions, but did not inquire of the Lord. Then Joshua made a treaty of peace with them to let them live, and the leaders of the assembly ratified it by oath. 3 days after they made the treaty with the Gibeonites, the Israelites heard that they were neighbors living near them. So the Israelites set out, and on the 3rd day came to their cities, Gibeon, Kephirah, Beeroth, and Kiriath-Jearim. But the Israelites did not attack them, because the leaders of the assembly had sworn an oath to them by the Lord, the God of Israel. The whole assembly grumbled against the leaders, but all the leaders answered,
no grumbling.
"We have given them our oath by the Lord, the God of Israel, and we cannot touch them now. This is what we will do to them. We will let them live, so that God's wrath will not fall on us for breaking the oath we swore to them."
They continued,
"Let them live, but let them be woodcutters and water carriers in the service of the whole assembly."
So the leaders' promise to them was kept. Then Joshua summoned the Gibeonites and said,
"Why did you deceive us by saying, 'We live a long way from you,' while actually you live near us? You are now under a curse. You will never be released from service as woodcutters and water carriers for the house of my God."
They answered Joshua,
"Your servants were clearly told how the Lord your God had commanded his servant Moses to give you the whole land and to wipe out all its inhabitants from before you. So we feared for our lives because of you, and that is why we did this. We are now in your hands. Do to us whatever seems good and right to you."
So Joshua saved them from the Israelites, and they did not kill them. That day he made the Gibeonites woodcutters and water carriers for the assembly, to provide for the needs of the altar of the Lord at the place the Lord would choose. And that is what they are to this day.
Sure.
Chapter 10. Now Adoni-Zedek, king of Jerusalem, heard that Joshua had taken Ai and totally destroyed it, doing to Ai and its king as he had done to Jericho and its king, and that the people of Gibeon had made a treaty of peace with Israel and had become their allies. He and his people were very much alarmed at this, because Gibeon was an important city, like one of the royal cities. It was larger than Ai, and all its men were good fighters. So Adoni-Zedek, king of Jerusalem, appealed to Hoham, king of Hebron, Piram, king of Jarmuth, Japhiah, king of Lachish, and Deber, king of Eglon.
"Come up and help me attack Gibeon,"
he said,
"because it has made peace with Joshua and the Israelites."
Then the 5 kings of the Amorites, the kings of Jerusalem, Hebron, Jarmuth, Lachish, and Eglon, joined forces. They moved up with all their troops and took up positions against Gibeon and attacked it. The Gibeonites then sent word to Joshua in the camp at Gilgal.
Do not abandon your servants. Come up to us quickly and save us. Help us, because all the Amorite kings from the hill country have joined forces against us.
So Joshua marched up from Gilgal with his entire army, including all the best fighting men. The Lord said to Joshua,
Do not be afraid of them. I have given them into your hand. Not one of them will be able to withstand you.
After an all-night march from Gilgal, Joshua took them by surprise. The Lord threw them into confusion before Israel, so Joshua and the Israelites defeated them completely at Gibeon. Israel pursued them along the road going up to Beth-horon and cut them down all the way to Azekah and Makkedah. As they fled before Israel on the road down from Beth-horon to Azekah, the Lord hurled large hailstones down on them, and more of them died from the hail than were killed by the swords of the Israelites. On the day the Lord gave the Amorites over to Israel, Joshua said to the Lord in the presence of Israel,
Sun, stand still over Gibeon, and you, moon, over the valley of Ajalon.
So the sun stood still, and the moon stopped, till the nation avenged itself on its enemies, as it is written in the book of Jasher. The sun stopped in the middle of the sky, and delayed going down about a full day. There has never been a day like it before or since, a day when the Lord listened to a human being. Surely the Lord was fighting for Israel. Then Joshua returned with all Israel to the camp at Gilgal.
He's not partial,
now the 5
by the
kings
way.
had fled and hidden in the cave at Makkedah. When Joshua was told that the 5 kings had been found hiding in the cave at Makkedah, he said,
Roll large rocks up to the mouth of the cave and post some men there to
fishing
guard
thing yet?
But don't
Nope,
stop.
that's why I'm still doing
Pursue
it.
your enemies. Attack them from the rear, and don't let them reach their cities, for the Lord your God has given them into your hand.
So Joshua and the Israelites defeated them completely, but a few survivors managed to reach their fortified cities. The whole army then returned safely to Joshua in the camp at Makkedah, and no one uttered a word against the Israelites. Joshua said,
Open the mouth of the cave, and bring those 5 kings out to me.
So they brought the 5 kings out of the cave, the kings of Jerusalem, Hebron, Jarmuth, Lachish, and Eglon. When they had brought these kings to Joshua, he summoned all the men of Israel, and said to the army commanders who had come with him,
Come here and put your feet on the necks of these kings.
So they came forward and placed their feet on their necks. Joshua said to them,
Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. Be strong and courageous. This is what the Lord will do to all the enemies you are going to fight.
Then Joshua put the kings to death and exposed their bodies on 5 poles, and they were left hanging on the poles until evening. At sunset, Joshua gave the order, and they took them down from the poles and threw them into the cave where they had been hiding.
That's so
At the mouth of
hardcore.
the cave, they placed large rocks, which are there to this day. That day Joshua took Makkedah. He put the city and its king to the sword, and totally destroyed everyone in it. He left no survivors. And he did to the king of Makkedah as he had done to the king of Jericho. Then Joshua and all Israel with him moved on from Makkedah to Libnah, and attacked it. The Lord also gave that city and its king into Israel's hand. The city and everyone in it Joshua put to the sword. He left no survivors there. And he did to its king as he had done to the king of Jericho. Then Joshua and all Israel with him moved on from Libnah to Lachish. He took up positions against it and attacked it.
We are just
The Lord
murdering
gave Lachish into
the
Israel's
entire
hands,
region.
and Joshua took it on the
The
second
Israelites
day.
are doing
The city
mass
and everyone in it
genocide.
he put to the sword, just as he had done to Libnah. Meanwhile, Horam, king of Gezer, had come up to help Lachish, but Joshua defeated him and his army until no survivors were left. Then Joshua and all Israel with him moved on from Lachish to Eglon. They took up positions against it and attacked it. They captured it that same day and put it to the sword and totally destroyed everyone in it, just as they had done to Lachish. Then Joshua and all Israel with him went up from Eglon to Hebron and attacked it. They took the city and put it to the sword together with its king, its villages, and everyone in it. They left no survivors. Just as at Eglon, they totally destroyed it and everyone in it. Then Joshua and all Israel with him turned around and attacked Debir. They took the city, its king, and its villages, and put them to the sword. Everyone in it they totally destroyed. They left no survivors. They did to Debir and its king as they had done to Libnah and its king, and to Hebron. So Joshua subdued the whole region, including the hill country, the Negev, the western foothills, and the mountain slopes, together with all their kings. He left no survivors. He totally destroyed all who breathed, just as the Lord, the God of Israel, had commanded. Joshua subdued them from Kadesh Barnea to Gaza, and from the whole region of Goshen to Gibeon. All these kings and their lands Joshua conquered in one campaign, because the Lord, the God of Israel, fought for Israel. Then Joshua returned with all Israel to the camp at Gilgal. Chapter 11. When Jabin, king of Hazor, heard of this, he sent word to Jobab, king of Madon, to the kings of Shimron and Akshaph, and to the northern kings who were in the mountains, in the Arabah south of Kinnereth,
and then we went around the whole region and murdered everyone.
On the west, to the Canaanites in the east and west, to the Amorites, Hittites, Perizzites, and Jebusites in the hill country, and to the Hivites below Hermon in the region of Mizpah. They came out with all their troops and a large number of horses and chariots, a huge army, as numerous as the sand on the seashore. All these kings joined forces and made camp together at the waters of Merom to fight against Israel. The Lord said to Joshua,
"Do not be afraid of them, because by this time tomorrow I will hand all of them, slain, over to Israel. You are to hamstring their horses and burn their chariots."
So Joshua and his whole army came against them suddenly at the waters of Merom and attacked them. And the Lord gave them into the hand of Israel. They defeated them and pursued them all the way to Greater Sidon, to Misrephoth-Maim, and to the valley of Mizpah on the east, until no survivors were left. Joshua did to them as the Lord had directed. He hamstrung their horses and burned their chariots. At that time Joshua turned back and captured Hazor and put its king to the sword. Hazor had been the head of all these kingdoms. Everyone in it they put to the sword. They totally destroyed them, not sparing anyone that breathed, and he burned Hazor itself. Joshua took all these royal cities and their kings and put them to the sword. He totally destroyed them, as Moses, the servant of the Lord,
telling this story as though it's super awesome and cool what we're doing.
The cities built on their mounds, except Hazor, which Joshua burned. The Israelites carried off for themselves all the plunder and livestock.
Just actually going city by city by city, and because they don't follow this religion that literally wasn't even established yet.
As the Lord commanded his servant Moses,
we
commanded
murder
Joshua,
murder everyone and burn all their cities down.
Undone of all that the Lord commanded Moses.
We even fuck up their horses.
So Joshua took this entire land, the hill country, all the Negev, the whole region of Goshen, the western foothills, the Arabah, and the mountains of Israel with their foothills, from Mount Halak, which rises toward Seir, to Baal Gad in the valley of Lebanon below Mount Hermon. He captured all their kings and put them to death. Joshua waged war against all these kings for a long time. Except for the Hivites living in Gibeon, not one city made a treaty of peace with the Israelites, who took them all in battle. For it was the Lord himself who hardened their hearts to wage war against Israel, so that he might destroy them totally, exterminating them without mercy, as the Lord had commanded Moses. At that time Joshua went and destroyed the Anakites from the hill country, from Hebron, Debir, and Anab, from all the hill country of Judah, and from all the hill country of Israel. Joshua totally destroyed them and their towns. No Anakites were left in Israelite territory. Only in Gaza, Gath, and Ashdod did any survive. So Joshua took the entire land, just as the Lord had directed Moses, and he gave it as an inheritance to Israel according to their tribal divisions. Then the land had rest from war.
Oh, we finally have rest from war.
12. These are the kings of the land whom the Israelites had
Here's
defeated,
the list.
and whose territory they took over east of the Jordan, from the Arnon Gorge to Mount Hermon, including all the eastern side of the Arabah. Sihon, king of the Amorites, who reigned in Heshbon. He ruled from Aroer on the rim of the Arnon Gorge, from the middle of the gorge to the Jabbok River, which is the border of the Ammonites. This included half of Gilead. He also ruled over the eastern Arabah from the Sea of Galilee to the Sea of the Arabah, that is the Dead Sea, to Beth Jeshimoth, and then southward below the slopes
It's
of
crazy
Pisgah,
just how,
and the
like,
territory of Og, king of Bashan, one of the last of the Rephaites,
everyone else except
who
this
reigned
one
in
small
Ashtaroth
tribe of
and
people,
Edrei.
they were all perverse and
He
bad.
ruled over Mount Hermon, Salakah, all of Bashan to the border of the people of Gesher and Maacah, and
So
half of
God
Gilead
chose these
to the
holy
border of
warriors
Sihon,
and
king
gave
of
them
Heshbon.
godly strength.
Moses,
so that way they
the
may
servant of the Lord, and the Israelites
act
conquered
through
them.
him and go
and Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave their land to the
raise
Reubenites,
and pillage
the
the
Gadites,
entire
and the
region.
half-tribe of Manasseh to be their possession. Here is a list of the kings of the land that Joshua and
Why
the
not just give
Israelites
them
conquered on the
plagues
west
and-
side of the Jordan,
and do it
from Baal Gad in the valley of Lebanon to Mount
do it that
Halak,
way? Why
which rises
have
toward Seir.
why
Joshua
force
gave their
these
lands
people to
as
do
an
your fighting?
inheritance to the tribes of Israel according to their tribal divisions. The lands included the hill country, the western foothills, the Arabah, the mountain slopes, the wilderness, and the Negev. These were the lands of the Hittites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. These were the kings. The king of Jericho, 1. The king of Ai near Bethel, 1.
Why are we?
The king of Jerusalem, 1. The king of Hebron, 1. The king of Jarmuth, 1. The king of Lachish, 1. The king of Eglon, 1. The king of Gezer, 1. The king of Debir, 1. The king of Geder, 1. The king of Hormah, 1. The king of Arad, 1. The king of Libnah, 1. The king of Adullam, 1. The king of Makkedah, 1. The king of Bethel, 1. The king of Tappuah, 1. The king of Hepher, 1. The king of Aphek, 1. The king of Lasharon, 1. The king of Madon, 1. The king of Hazor, 1. The king of Shimron-Meron, 1. The king of Akshaph, 1. The king of Taanach, 1. The king of Megiddo, 1. The king of Kedesh, 1. The king of Jokneam in Carmel, 1. The king of Dor in Naphath Dor, 1. The king of Goyim in Gilgal, 1. The king of Tirzah, 1. 31 kings in all.
1.
Chapter 13.
Oh, we
When
haven't
Joshua
done it all
had
yet?
grown old, the Lord said to him,
You are now very old, and there are still very large areas of land
Joshua had
to be
grown old.
taken
The Lord
over.
said, You're old.
This is the land that remains. All the regions of the Philistines and Geshurites, from the Shihor River on
God,
the east
like,
of Egypt to the territory
we
of
have to do
Ekron
more
on the north.
conquesting.
All of it counted
More
as
imperialism
Canaanite,
yet to be
though
done.
held by the 5 Philistine rulers in Gaza, Ashdod, Ashkelon, Gath, and Ekron, the territory of the Avites on the south, all the land of the Canaanites, from Era of the Sidonians as far as Aphek and the border of the Amorites, the area of Byblos and all Lebanon to the east, from Baal Gad below Mount Hermon to Lebo Hamath.
Yes,
As
I am
for
still
all
taking
the
notes.
inhabitants of the mountain regions, from Lebanon to Misrephoth Maim, that is, all the Sidonians, I myself will drive them out before the Israelites. Be sure to allocate this land to Israel for an inheritance, as I have instructed you, and divide it as an inheritance among the 9 tribes and half of the tribe of Manasseh.
The other half of Manasseh, the Reubenites and the Gadites, had received the inheritance that Moses had given them east of the Jordan, as he, the servant of the Lord, had assigned it to them. It extended from
Now it's time to
Aroer on
divvy
the
up
rim
the
of the Arnon
land.
Gorge, and from the town in the middle of the gorge, and included the whole plateau of Medeba as far as Dibon, and all the towns of Sihon, king of the Amorites, who ruled in Heshbon, out to the border of the Ammonites. It also included Gilead, the territory of the people of Gesher and Maacah, all of Mount Hermon, and all Bashan as far as Salakah, that is, the whole kingdom of Og in Bashan, who had reigned in Ashtaroth and Edrei. He was the last of the Rephaites. Moses had defeated them and taken over their land. But the Israelites did not drive out the people of Gesher and Maacah, so they continued to live among the Israelites to this day. But to the tribe of Levi he gave no inheritance, since the food offerings presented to the Lord, the God of Israel, are their inheritance, as he promised them. This is what Moses had given to the tribe of Reuben according to its clans. The territory from Aroer on the rim of the Arnon
And
Gorge,
here's all the things
from
that
the town in
totally
the middle of the gorge,
belong to us
and
by
the whole
divine right,
plateau past
as it
Medeba,
is stated in
to
the book.
Heshbon, and all its towns on the plateau, including Dibon, Bamoth Baal, Beth Baal Meon, Jahaz, Kedemoth, Mephaath, Kiriathaim, Sibmah, Zereth-Shahar on the hill in the valley, Beth-peor, the slopes of Pisgah, and Beth-Jeshimoth, all the towns on the plateau, in the entire realm of
talking
Sihon,
about needless
king of the
details.
Amorites, who ruled at Heshbon. Moses had
That's the
defeated
good
him
stuff.
and the Midianite chiefs Evi, Rechem, Zur, Hur, and Reba, princes allied with Sihon, who lived in that country. In addition to those slain in battle, the Israelites had put to the sword Balaam son of Beor, who practiced divination. The boundary of the Reubenites was the bank of the Jordan. These towns and their villages were the inheritance of the Reubenites, according to their clans. This is what Moses had given to the tribe of Gad, according to its clans: the territory of Jazer, all the towns of Gilead, and half the Ammonite country as far as Aroer, near Rabbah, and from Heshbon to Ramoth-Mizpah and Betanim, and from Mahanaim to the territory of Debir, and in the valley, Beth-haram, Beth-nimrah, Succoth, and Zaphon, with the rest of the realm of Sihon, king of Heshbon, the east side of the Jordan, the territory up to the end of the Sea of Galilee. These towns and their villages were the inheritance of the Gadites, according to their clans. This is what Moses
I'm
had
retaining
given
all
to the
this
half-tribe of
information.
Manasseh,
This is
that
being
is, to half
internalized.
the family of the descendants of Manasseh, according to its clans.
What?
The territory extending from Mahanaim and including all of Bashan, the entire realm of Og, king of Bashan, all the settlements of Jair in Bashan, 60 towns, half of Gilead, and Ashtaroth and Edrei, the royal cities of Og in Bashan. This was for the descendants of Machir, son of Manasseh, for half of the sons of Machir, according to their clans. This is the inheritance Moses had given when he was in the plains of Moab, across the Jordan,
tribe
east
of
of Jericho.
Manasseh,
But to the tribe of Levi,
they got
Moses had given
all of
no
Narnia.
inheritance. The Lord, the God of Israel, is their inheritance, as he promised them.
One half of
Chapter
the
14.
Shire.
Now these are the areas the Israelites received as an inheritance in the land of Canaan, which Eleazar the priest, Joshua son of Nun, and the heads of the tribal clans of Israel allotted to them. Their inheritances were assigned by lot to the 9½ tribes, as the Lord had commanded through Moses. Moses had granted the 2½ tribes their inheritance east of the Jordan, but had not granted the Levites an inheritance among the rest. For Joseph's descendants had become 2 tribes, Manasseh and Ephraim. The Levites received no share of the land, but only towns to live in, with pasture lands for their flocks and herds.
Sorry, you guys aren't
so
Israelites.
the Israelites divided the land, just as the Lord had commanded Moses. Now the people of Judah approached Joshua at Gilgal, and Caleb, son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite,
Actually,
said
just
to him,
You know what
racism
the Lord said to Moses,
and
the man
genocide
of God
thus far.
at Kadesh
That's all it's
Barnea
been.
about you and me.
Pretty crazy.
I was 40 years old when Moses, the servant of the Lord, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to explore the land. And I brought him back a report according to my convictions. But my fellow Israelites who went up with me made the hearts of the people melt in fear. I, however, followed the Lord my God wholeheartedly. So on that day Moses swore to me, the land on which your feet have walked will be your inheritance and that of your children forever, because you have followed the Lord my God wholeheartedly. Now then, just as the Lord promised, he has kept me alive for 45 years since the time he said this to Moses, while Israel moved about in the wilderness. So
And
here
I've
I
been
am
alive
today,
for
495
years
I am
since
still
then.
as strong today as the day
Doing lots
Moses
of
sent
blow
me out.
and
I'm
making
just as
babies
vigorous
the
to
whole
go out to
time, every
battle
day.
now as I was then. Now give me this hill country that the Lord promised me that day. You yourself heard then that the Anakites were there and their cities were large and fortified. But, the Lord helping me, I will drive them out just as he said.
Then Joshua blessed Caleb, son of Jephunneh, and gave him Hebron as his inheritance. So Hebron has belonged to Caleb, son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, ever since, because he followed the Lord, the God of Israel, wholeheartedly. Hebron used to be called Kiriath Arba, after Arba, who was the greatest man among the Anakites. Then the land had rest from war. Chapter 15. The allotment for the tribe of Judah, according to its clans.
All right. That's going to be where we stop today.